Good morning. Normally at this time, you would listen to Blender yelling at y'all and welcome you to the Blender Show at 11 o'clock. This, of course, opening day for baseball. Super excited to talk some Mlb Dfs. Nobody Bender to talk, especially opening day, just to kind of get the primer out there for the people. A lot of new people probably joining baseball, some NBA people jumping over here. Of course, a lot of people coming back, I imagine so as well. And there's a lot of differences as far as the other sports. As much as you may think NBA is the most predictable sport, despite what it may happen at this time of year, baseball is the antithesis for sure. Major League Baseball, the greatest hitter in the world facing the worst pitcher in the world in the best ballpark in the world, can very well go for 4. And it's like not shocking. It's not surprising. The worst pitcher, the worst hitter in baseball. We did this last year, by the way, and we nailed it. We said like Jonah Heim. Like Jonah Heim could hit the 2 home runs and be like the best hitter in all the slate. And that's just how it can go. And you really can't predict it. It's not totally goofy. And like in basketball, the 15th man on the bench, he doesn't break the slate. I don't know who that guy would be today.
This time of year, Dean, and the NBA, that could happen. Have you been following NBA DFS? The 13th guy on the team could be the 67 fantasy points. Who knows?
The Blazers only have like 8 guys. They don't have a 13th guy. I don't know if you probably checked out with basketball a while ago.
A long time ago. Well, their best player now should be the 13th guy on some other team.
So, Blender, welcome. Of course, we're here for the first hour and 15 minutes or so. We take you guys straight up the lock. 2 of the best minds in all of baseball, like for real, coming in, following us. You got Derek Carty, you got Dave Potts, 2-time millionaire winner. Truly, I would put this team up against anybody, and I like our chances. And chief meteorologist Kevin Roth. Kevin Roth, always useful, but especially useful around baseball season this time as far as precipitation, weather, the weather edge tool. We'll be talking about that, referencing it all the time. I'm sure we'll be referencing the bat for Derek Carty several times as well. You got Dave Potts and his musings. I thoroughly enjoyed reading that. It's nice having the $1 Million Musings give you guys our premium members. Y'all know how much fun and how informative that is as well. Blender, welcome. Are we ready for baseball? Get comfortable. Like, you know how excited you're right now. Like, month 5, month 6 of the grind. You may not feel it, but right now it feels good. Opening day, I'm excited.
Right. I always joke that that's what's going to end up happening. But especially with me not playing NBA DFS, it feels like, I get to play like DFS regularly again. Like soccer's like once or twice a week. MMA is once a week. And I'm like sitting there going, okay, I'm waiting for MLB to be back. And we got a big slate today. Obviously, they moved the Rockies Padres game is now going to be at night, but it's still on the slate. So that's the late hammer. That's a really late hammer on this slate.
That's going to affect. I thought for sure. Like I saw that drop last night, and I'm like, if the sites have the capability, they might just kick that game off the slate. It's already an 11 gamer. They might knock it down to 10. I think it's it's out West Coast San Diego. There's weather issues during the day. I didn't know it rained in San Diego. I was told by the local weatherman Ron Burgundy. Told me that it was just going to be sunny and like 70 every single day. But unfortunately, apparently that's not what's going on. I feel like people just aren't going to play the Padres and Colorado. You weren't going to play Colorado anyway.
Other than the Snell is going to be owned.
Yeah, I suppose. But I just think that's going to push down. And like, you're not going to get that lineup. Most likely. We saw shout out to the Twins. The Twins had their lineup out last night. They're excited to play baseball. It was projected.
Wait until they scratch 3 players from the lineup. We'll see that.
Right? Now you're talking basketball. That happens on occasion. Doesn't happen a ton. And if it does happen, get yourself the RotoGrinders app. That'll help you out. That'll give you the notifications, the push notifications as far as when players happen to be scratched. The projection was that Joey Gallo was going to draw the start, bat leadoff, which is such a 2023 thing. Joey Gallo being a leadoff hitter, and prototypically, obviously not that kind of guy. But actually, Max Kepler is drawing the start against Zach Greinke. It's always just sort of like mixed feelings for me, Blender, as far as opening day, because you're excited about opening day, love having baseball back, but it's a pile of great pitchers. So there's, not a lot of great pitchers to attack. So like, what offenses do I want to roster? Kind of none. Of course some, but like the different degree. It's not like when it's 3 months into the season, it's 110 degrees in Atlanta, and like there's like an 11 total, and some gas can on the mound. We do kind of sort of have a gas can on the mound facing the Braves and Patrick Corbin, who just like one of these guys does not belong as far as opening day starters, but the Nationals are just a dreadful organization. But what I'm getting at is like a pile of good pitchers. The weather's not great. It's 40 degrees in the 40s in Washington. New York, it's in the 40s. Boston, I believe, it's 40 degrees in Boston. Chicago, 42. Like, there's not these totals. 7 in Chicago. That's what Stroman burns, of course, on the other side. 7 in Tampa. That's in a dome. 8.5 is the highest total we have on the board. A couple games of 8.5. Kyle Gibson and the Klubot, Corey Kluber. 2 like really non-opening day starters, right? Not that sort of ability, but they got to roll somebody out. And I believe we have 8.5 in Kansas City. Yeah, Zach Greinke versus Pablo Lopez. Not a great ballpark, pretty cavernous, but a little bit warmer there than most places, 67 degrees. And, I think all that stuff is kind of weighted into the conversation. And as far as how chalk goes and ownership goes, and I care so much more about ownership in baseball than I do in basketball because of the high variance. We're just talking about like, one outcome, and you justify your roster spot. That's just how it goes. And you only have 4 at bats. There's no usage thing. You can't take 12 at bats because your teammate got hurt and you're only down to 7 players. The batting lineup's the batting lineup, and you have your 4 or 5 chances. And if you don't get there, that's it. You were a big old bust in the day. So how do you feel as far as overview and just sort of like the way you attack MLB DFS slates? Is it any different at opening day? You think the chalk's going to be even greater because
there's a variance caveat on opening in the beginning of the season, a little bit more. But to reiterate your point, there are 22 teams on today's slate. Only 7 have an implied team total of 4 or more.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Only have 4 or more, and the highest is Atlanta, 4.68. So it's not like we got I think the Braves are going to be chalky. I think the Twins are going to be chalky, right? I mean, the teams that have like 4 totals, but I think Atlanta and Minnesota will be they compared to the price on DraftKings, they should be the most owned teams on the slate. But from a variance perspective, like, you have to remember last year, I'm going to put 2 sides of the coin. The first start or 2 of these pitchers, regardless of how good they are, a lot of times these managers, they manage the pitch count much closer in the beginning of a season as they're warming up versus in the middle of the season. Now, the caveat from last year they had a very short spring training. So going by last year and going, all the starters are only going to pitch 70 pitches type of thing, that's not really going to apply necessarily this year. But you can't expect, like, we already know that Jacob deGrom is going to pitch like 75 pitches. Like,
if that, it's like 70ish, right? Yeah,
right. And sure, he could get 12 strikeouts even in that.
Correct.
So I mean, it could happen. That the variance on who gets pulled when, good luck. So it's quite possible that, we have all these kind of study type pitchers, and any of them could get pulled at 75 or 80 or 85 or only pitch. They get to the bottom, they get to the 4th inning and they're at like 86, and it's like, it's not worth it to come out for the next inning type of thing, right? They get up to 92 and it's like, not worth it to come out for the 6th type of thing. And the prices reflect that, though. So, like, on this slate, you shouldn't be starving for salary because they've priced, that. I mean, we have Jacob deGrom is 9,600 as the most expensive pitcher, and we have like Snell at 79 and Cole at 9,000. You'll see, these prices be 10,500, 11,000.
It's
10,
really
2.
loose on DK. The pricing is really
FanDuel's
a little tighter. FanDuel's tighter, but DK is, and I'm sure you're working your way to it. I'm going to cut you off, but like the McClanahan price is just like what happened there? What are we doing? What does DK know that we don't know? And like speaking to your point about pitch count, like Tampa Bay historically is an organization that babies their young arms more than others, and McClanahan obviously has had some growth, and he's not necessarily this young arm, but he's a huge prospect for them, or I guess prospect. He's beyond that status. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, but he's probably a guy that doesn't throw 100 pitches. But if you get 87 or 84 out of McClanahan against Detroit, I'll take my chances. I feel pretty good. But and that kind of leads one of the conversations as far as ownership when it comes to pitchers, because I think he's the first pitcher in as far as your cash games. But and also I was digging in like some spring training stuff like you're talking about, and obviously these guys work on the side too. But looking at how many pitches they throw, and First of all, it's hard to find spring training pitch count stuff. And I saw some weird numbers that almost didn't make sense. Like Corbin Burns went 5 innings and threw 42 pitches, and that gave up 10 hits. And I'm like, how is this possible? I didn't watch the game, obviously. He was watching spring training baseball, but it didn't even make any sense to me. I'm like, I guess it's correct, but it still seemed completely implausible. And how much does that matter to you? But the other side of it, again, general rules, right, Blender? General rule is arms are more predictive than bats. And I assume.
Well, I don't. Hold on. That's a little misnomer. Pitchers have more normally distributed outcomes than batters, which means
you're just saying in a fancier way.
If you're going by a median projection, there are more outcomes that are closer to the median, as opposed to batters, which have more bimodal outcomes, which means there aren't as many outcomes that are actually close. Like if a batter has an 8.5 point projection, they actually don't have that many 8.5s in their outcomes. They have a lot of 3s and they have a lot of 12s, but not that many 8.5. So like when you're dealing with pitchers, because they have more events, right? 100 pitches, right? Multiple batters rather than, 3 to 5 just plate appearances, that if you're going by median projections, that they're good. Most of the outcomes will appear towards the median. So going by those would be, it's not more predictive. It's just that more of the outcomes. If we have Corbin Burns at 20, you're going to see more of the outcomes be 16, 22, 18, 24. You'll still have 12s and 32s. You'll still have a 6 in there. But with batters, you'll see 0, 0, 0, 2. Right, 16, right, 10, right, 5.
The median projection on Aaron Judge is 7-8 points, something like that, right?
Right, but he rarely
a home run, you get
7 or 8
14 points.
A lot of times he gets 3 or he gets 20.
Yeah, well, you can't predict him either like, yes, he's going to homer or no, he's not going to homer, and like 0 or 14. It doesn't work that way as far as median projections. So, yeah, there's much greater outliers. I guess that's another way of saying it. There are greater outliers when it comes to bats as opposed to the arms. I guess that's another way of saying it as well.
That's correct. Which is to get along to your point, that if you had to choose between playing a chalky batter or a chalky pitcher, you're probably better off going away from ownership with the bats and embracing pitcher chalk, because it's more normally distributed. It doesn't mean you have to. You can build your lineups any way you want, but I'm much more inclined, even in large field GPPs, to side with playing the better projected pitchers, right? May not be the highest projected pitcher, but the higher. I'm less likely to get really contrarian at pitcher, and more likely to take a shot on a team that 16th highest implied team total stack at 2% owned or something. Like I'd much rather take a shot on that, because the bats are way more the bimodal nature of hitting, and especially with how strong correlation is between batters on the same team, that like if you get the team right, like you're going to start racking up points and making up all of that median projection difference. So if you see like, oh, the Twins and the Braves, oh, my lineup projects for X, and then it's like, well, if I plug in this team and now the projection is 12 points lower, and it's like dude, 12 points. That's like one swing of the bat. One solo home run in DraftKings is 14 points. And well, what happens if in the 5th inning that team puts up 6 runs? They blow up a pitcher. It's like, well, you're going to get the 2nd hitter, the 3rd hitter, the 4th hitter. Like all of your guys start accumulating points. You could really make up, you can make up 20, 30 points of median projection just by the correlated nature of stacks. If you get the right.
Expand on that, by the way. Expand on that. There are some people, I'm sure, that are new out there that might not understand the concept of stacking, why one would stack, correlation, why it makes sense. Why would you stack?
You want me to explain stacking because you do the 1 1 1 1 1 1 1?
I don't do the 1 1.
Are we going to continue that joke the entire year?
Well, the other part is, I guess we can say, hey, Blender, what do you consider a stack? Because there's a stack and there's a mini stack, right? And I think like 3-3-2 as a lineup is a stacked lineup. I don't know if you think that's a stacked lineup. Do you think that's a stacked lineup? I'm not sure.
that in GPP, when you're playing cash games where where the distribution of the payout doesn't matter if you come in 50th or first, all correlation does is increase the variance of your lineup. That benefits you in GPPs because you want the higher end outcomes. In cash games, you want to reduce the variance of your lineup. So you don't necessarily want to rely on one team doing well, and if they don't, you're screwed type of thing. Now, if they happen to be the best values, then so be it. Sometimes you'll play 5 guys from the same team, and even in a cash line because they're all underpriced for their expectation. But the more players you add from the same team, their results, their outcomes are correlated to each other. When one batter does well, the other batter has more likelihood of doing well. Doesn't mean they will, but it's more likely. So in order to score, and beat, 50,000 people in a GPP or even 500 people in a GPP, you want to increase the variance of your lineups. Now, how you do that, if it's 3-3-2, it's just you're thinking in terms of, well, if I had a choice between this batter and that batter at a similar projection and similar ownership, it's I'll pick the one that has, do you have another batter from that team in your lineup? Yeah, okay, then pick that guy, right? And then a lot of times you end up with, 3, 4, 5-man stacks. And then the reason why on FanDuel or DraftKings, playing at least a 4-man stack on FanDuel and at least a 5-man stack on DraftKings is because on most occasions, you win by having 5 batters from a team that puts up a lot of runs. How many a lot of runs in? It's more runs than all the other teams. So a team that puts up 14 runs on a slate where the next highest team is only 8 runs.
Home runs help too.
What?
I mean, 10 runs isn't necessarily greater than 8 runs, right? Because
8 runs, it's more than the next team. So if you have a team that puts up 10 runs and the next team only puts up 4, I'm pretty sure that any stack of the team with 10 runs probably wins your GPP. So there are going to be some slates where multiple teams put up 8, 10, 12 runs. There are some slates where the highest scoring team only puts up 6 runs. But typically, as a heuristic in MLB DFS, having a 5, if you have the highest scoring team in your lineup, you'd want as many batters from the team as possible. So it's easier to win GPPs, right? It's very similar to we talk about in NFL, where you stack, even though, if this guy scores a touchdown, this guy doesn't score a touchdown. It's just that you don't need the nut lineup, even in the Millie Maker, to win an NFL GPP. In MLB, that is to the nth degree. The optimal line, the nut lineup on today's slate, most likely will be 8 one-offs, right? But that lineup will score 80 points higher than who wins the large field GPP on DraftKings, because good luck picking out the 8 perfect people in your line, the one-off 2 home run people, and the there's so many combinations in MLB that you don't have to, you're not competing against really that lineup. You don't need that lineup. You just need enough points. And because of that, you don't need the nut lineup. Isn't it easier to get one thing right? Can I get 2 pitchers right and a stack right and hopefully have one-offs or another 3-man stack that's the second highest scoring team? And it's maybe I don't have the one-off that has 20 points, but I do have a one-off that has 12 points. And because I don't need the nut lineup, it's do I have the team that put up the most runs as a 5-man stack? Typically, that's what's going to win you the GPP. So it's easier to attack your lineup construction that way than try to find the perfect lineup, because there's way too many combinations to do that.
Do want to say what's up to the chat. Kindly hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Again, taking y'all straight up the lock. We're still here for about 50 minutes or so. We're going to hand it off to Carty, Derek Carty of such things as the Blitz, but most importantly for today's purposes, the Bat. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth will tell you what's going on precipitation-wise, if anything is lurking. And the 2-time millionaire winner, Dave Potts of the Musings. He'll be joining us as well. I see TJ and Will and Bobby, a lot of the RG people. Yeah, they're giving me a hard time about I'm not a 1-1-1-1-1-1 guy necessarily.
1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1. 8 stacks in my lineup. Good luck to you.
By the way, all I was saying before was if you score 8 runs, that could be better than the 10-run team because runs are created differently. And, obviously homers, you could score 7 runs and have a better core than the team that scores 15 runs. If the
But
homers,
that's why I'm just talking as a heuristic. It's not that now we're getting into nitty gritty stuff that maybe you can't even control. But if you just always approach the slate from like, I want to stack a team that's going to score a lot of runs, that projects well for their price, and get 2 pitchers that put up 20 plus points on DraftKings, or like, 40, 50 points on FanDuel, like you're 95% of the way there.
Some lineups already coming through. It's beautiful to see. You love it. You love to see it when the lineups are coming out, multiple hours before the game starts.
We just started 90 minutes. It's not that much. It's similar like a Sunday afternoon, Sunday.
The Reds started at 4 o'clock on the East Coast, and the Reds game, the lineup just came out. The Reds 5 hours from now. Hold on. I went to UCF. That was bad math. Give or take. It's a while. But I was really curious to see their lineup because I think the Reds are one of the more interesting teams. The new rules coming in this year, and I'm sure Carty will have a lot to say about that, and Dave will have a lot to say about it. And we can only dig into so much, on opening day. We want to get to the plays and, things we like and general concepts and all that. But, speed, stolen bases should be enhanced this year. Spring training played that out. The bigger bases, the new rules, the pitch counts, the lack of shifts, more likely to get on base. Cincinnati's one of those teams that's openly come out and said, we're going to try to steal some bases. And Friedel and Fraley both stole, 4 or 5 or 6 stolen bases. And they're not known like notorious stolen base guys. India can steal as well. Friedel, Fraley, I know say that pretty quickly. And then Stevenson, the catcher. That's a pretty good 1 through 4 as far as Cincinnati. India, Friedel, Fraley, Stevenson, Vossler, Will Myers, Steer, Benson, another former prospect, and Barrero. We also have the Cardinals lineup just came out. I'm sure you're super pumped.
Is there an invisible? Hold on, Dean. I know the Cardinals lineup came out. I don't see it, but I see our starting lineups page, which is free on RotoGrinders.com. Is there an invisible guy batting 5th?
That is Contreras. I don't know why he is invisible.
Is he not in the player pool, or is that just a glitch?
I don't know why he wouldn't be. Big free agent from Chicago. I think that's just a glitch. It's opening day for the lineups page as well. We're still figuring it out, I suppose.
I just want to because sometimes you get the grayed out ones that's the guy in the lineup, and DraftKings doesn't have him in the player pool. And
unless something really goofed, I can't imagine he wouldn't be because.
If he's invisible, how is he going to hit?
No, he's in the pool.
He's just going to be at the plate with just the bat, and we're just going to see a bat.
That would be amazing.
He can get hit by the pitch without even having to do anything. He'll just stand in front of the plate. It looks like no one's there.
He'll wear a cloak, I guess. I don't know how you'd swing with the cloak.
Oh, a Klingon cloak. Put on a Klingon cloak. Okay, that's what he's doing.
That would be constricting, I feel like.
Imagine catching as an invisible catcher. No one will be able to steal the signs. Right? That's a good. That's a good.
The pitcher,
you have a cloak on, so the
pitcher wouldn't be able to see it. But thankfully, they have a different way of communicating signs now these days with the buttons. I'm not sure if you're aware of that system that came in last year. It's not necessarily the fingers anymore. Donovan leading off for St. Louis. I think St. Louis is one of the best lineups in baseball, especially when you assume that Jordan Walker, 20-year-old uber stud, just looks the part, looks awesome. He is batting 8th, but basically, I think he's still minimum or close to. He's very, very cheap. Ballpark is fair, I guess, in St. Louis. It's not necessarily the best hitting environment, not the worst hitting environment. Tough matchup against Alek Manoah, but Donovan, Newbar, goalie Arenado, Contreras, O'Neill, Gorman, Walker, and Edman. Just a really good lineup there for St. Louis. Anything else that's come out as far as the lineup was? Keeping an eye on things. We did get somebody was asking.
Dean, to put into perspective of how I play DFS, and obviously, if you're not new here, you know that I play DFS completely numbers oriented. I use projections such as Derek Carty's The Bat, which you should get. I already have God knows how many prize picks things down that I jammed in last night and this morning.
What'd you hit? You have anything you could share, or the numbers have already moved?
Everything. See, the thing is, you got to get them early before they move. So, I got Gallon under 5.5 strikeouts, but he's at 5 now. Ohtani over 6.5. He's at 7 now. Burns over 3.5 hits allowed. He's at 4 now. McClanahan over 6 strikeouts. He's at 6.5 now. Green under 7.5 strikeouts. He's at 7 now.
And then
McClanahan and DeGrom under fantasy points, and those moved. McClanahan over and DeGrom under, and the whole point is to get them early, and then they move, and then you don't hit them anymore, and that's it. You're good. right? I make a lot of 2 picks and stuff, and you throw them together, and that's why you get the bet. You just compare. I just have 2 screens. I look at one screen and go, okay, there's the number there. Oh, there's the number there. Is that big enough of a difference? Yes. Okay, let me find another one, and then I find a couple, and I round robin them all together. But I mean,
I wanted to dive
I'm
in
a
on
numbers.
that,
but the point that I was making is that, like, I don't know if I'll watch a baseball game this year. Like that's how little I care about.
I'm watching it all day, man. You're not watching any baseball?
I'm not, after making a lot, I'm watching wrestling. It's WrestleMania weekend, Dean. I ain't watching baseball.
Somebody's made a John Cena reference in the chat, so there you go.
They're right on cue. Right, it's Wilson Contreras. But I just found out right now to put the point of how more numbers driven and not like I pay attention to baseball. I just looking at the Red Sox lineup, I just found out Justin Turner's on the Red Sox.
You just found this out, yeah.
We can play. Justin Turner's on the. Oh, okay, that's new.
What is the Charles Barkley game, like Who We On or something like that? Did they play in the beginning of the basketball season on the TNT show? Yeah, we can play that, I suppose.
I don't watch TNT. How am I supposed to know?
What do you, TNT's got AEW wrestling. You watch TNT.
Yeah, but I don't watch Charles Barkley in the TNT, the pregame show. With
That's a different point you're making. Mullins leading off for Baltimore. No surprise there. The prize, Adley Rushman, Santander, Mountcastle, Henderson, Urias, Hayes, Frazier, Mateo. Top of that lineup is pretty appealing. And, again, it's 40 degrees in Boston. This is why I was staring at the prize pick stuff last night as well. And I didn't really want to make, I didn't like this. I hated the way the weather was looking, essentially. So, and I guess I could have bet unders and stuff, but I just
what's wrong with betting unders, Dean? It's not exciting, but it's profitable.
No, I'm perfectly fine betting. I mean, it's undemocratic to bet unders, right? Is that the line they say? It's like betting the pass line or whatever. Or it's like betting don't pass, right? People love betting overs, and you'll learn that more than anything else when you see like a player get hurt and everybody getting upset, like refund our money. It's like asking the sports books to give them. You could have just bet the under, but you chose not to because you're never going to bet the under because it's no fun. Miss, don't hit the ball. It's not as fun to watch sports that way, I suppose. All right, so let's talk about this. Pitchers in the slate. There is not a shortage. Some would say there's a plethora of pitchers. Are there stud pitchers? Yes. How many? There's a pile. How are you handling pitchers today? I know in the expert survey, I kind of talked about this, as did Dave Potts, and spreading out just seems like a really good idea because there's so many good pitchers. I'm not sure who's going to be the top pitcher, but I feel like I can say it's like one of these 10 guys in the bucket is going to be the top pitcher, right? I don't think it's going to be Kyle Gibson. I don't think it's going to be Corey Kluber, the Klubot, maybe like in 2018 or something like that. But a couple malfunctions of late in the last so many years, not as good as it used to be. How are you handling your pitcher pool? And we talked about it already as far as pitchers being, more predictive, right? Like absolutely Patrick Wisdom can outscore Ronald Acuna and like nobody's surprised. But if Eduardo Rodriguez is like the top scoring pitcher, that would be surprising. I guess it's possible, unlikely, but possible. Who's in your pool? What are you doing? You're running a bunch of lineups today, running 150, 30. Where are we at?
I'm playing. I just explained it on the DFS pregame show. I'm playing 2 cash lineups. They're basically for triple ups and quintuple up type lineups, 3 to 5x lineups, and then playing the 121 single entry on DraftKings, and then 2 like a little bit larger field, like the $25 single entry, the $12 single entry, and I'm throwing them in the $15 one. So I'm only making 3 GPP lineups. You have to realize that the guys like when we talk about like Mitch Keller and Eduardo Rodriguez and Kyle Gibson, like those are the types of pitchers on slates where we have like 12K aces. Like it's like, oh, in order for me to fit in this full Dodgers stack, I need to play a 6K pitcher. Like that you could throw that out the window on this slate. The pricing is like soft as hell. Like what? Shane McClanahan's at 7,700. So like, why are you playing Mitch Keller at 67? Like 6,700 is 1,000.
Ownership and variance is the argument, but I'm not doing it.
Yeah, but not to give up 11 points in projection for the sake of it. It's like the pricing makes it that it doesn't mean that I'm playing like McClanahan. It just means that like the pitching prices are close enough that I want to stick to the guys that are higher projected. So we have, I think the three chalkiest pitchers on DraftKings on the slate are McClanahan, Snell, and Cole. And then you have like the bucket of like Aaron Nola, Corbin Burns, Hunter Green a little, and Fried and Scherzer, maybe DeGrom. I think on a pitch count, if you just tell me that there's other stud pitchers on this slate, like I'm just not going to pay 9,600. I'm just not going to pay for DeGrom when like he can't get a complete game. He can't get, he just the ceiling. Can he get 12 strikeouts in 5 innings?
Yeah.
Yes. He can. But also, so can the other pitchers in the slate. It's not like it's Jacob DeGrom and then you're playing garbage because there's no one else on the slate. It's like, no, you have all these good pitchers on the slate. So to me, the consideration for DeGrom is I'm just throwing him out. Although he's likely to score probably 18 to 22 points. It's not like he's kind of safe in a way where it's like he's gonna get you like 6 to 9 to 10, maybe 15 strikeouts.
One bad inning though, if like a 27 pitch inning or something like that, and he's out of that game like in 4 innings, like something like one hit.
Right. Well, to me on FanDuel, it makes no sense to play DeGrom because I don't even think he gets the quality start. Right. You need highly 6 innings. Right. It's unlikely. So you're knocking yourself off for that, or even the win. He comes out before the 5th, or the Mets aren't up. It's like you don't even qualify for the win. So I
got news for you. I got news for you, Blender. I got news. Are you sitting down? Jacob DeGrom is no longer on the Mets. He's like
he's not on the Mets anymore. Oh yeah, on the Rangers. Okay. I knew that.
I had to hop on to that. That's so sad.
I did know that. I'm just used to DeGrom being just like Scherzer. Scherzer's still on the Nationals, right?
No. I got news. Are you sitting down?
Verlander's still on the Astros.
Blender, are you sitting down?
No, I know some of these. I know some of them. I just didn't know Justin Turner was on the Red Sox.
Yeah, that's.
I just go by the numbers on the screen. It doesn't matter to me what team they're on.
Ownership wise, like you said, not surprising. I thought the McClanahan would be a little bit more, a little higher than Cole, but Cole makes a lot of sense. From what I saw spring training wise, he seems to be pretty stretched out. Scherzer seems pretty stretched out, as much you can imagine at this time of year. I knew I was waiting for somebody in chat to give me the bit. How do we listen to this guy when he thinks DeGrom? And I know you know DeGrom. Some guys you don't know, but
the point.
Listen to the concepts.
It literally doesn't even matter. I'm looking at lineup HQ. I'm loading up projections. I'm looking at ownership, and I'm just like I say on the DFS pregame show. If you tune in Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, the number one thing you need to do, especially in 2023.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
maybe you didn't have to do this in 2015. You need to, I put it simply, you need to find a way to turn player names into numbers. Now, even if you're doing it yourself, let's say you have no model, no nothing, you don't have a RotoGrinders subscription, you're not looking at anything, then go down and say, what do I think the average outcome of Garrett Cole is? And you say, 23. Okay. Write that down. What do you think his ownership's going to be? About 30%. Now do that for everyone. And then take away the names of all the players and then just build your lineups with those numbers. Now, good luck doing that for every player on the slate in your head like that. That's how you build DFS lineups. So you need to find a way to turn player names into numbers. And once you have that,
if I'm hearing you correctly, Blender, I think I am. And another way of saying that, and correct, I don't know if I feel like I've heard this before. Could you just play whoever you want? Essentially, is that kind of what you're getting at?
Well, in a way, yes. You can't play any line. See the point, Dean. I never say play any lineup you want. I say play any one you want because you can't play any lineup.
It's lineups, not players.
Anyone that's projected on an MLB slate. You could play a plus. You could build a plus EV lineup with any single player on the slate. But once you choose that one player, now the other players in the lineup will be affected by. You could play Patrick Corbin. Sure, he's the lowest projected pitcher on the slate. But that means you have to now probably play Shane McClanahan. You probably have to play Twins in your – you have to raise your projections somewhat. You're going to be giving up – you're going to be playing higher-owned players that are higher projected to make up for the fact that you're playing Patrick Corbin in your lineup. So, that's how your lineup would need to be constructed if you were to play that player. You could start from any point. You want to play, the eighth hitter on the whatever team, sure. Most likely then you're probably stacking that team, right? You're probably not playing 8 one-offs, right?
Jordan Walker's batting eighth. I'll play him.
Right. I'm just saying that's what play whoever you want. So that's why having the numbers, subscribing to RotoGrinders if you're a premium member, or getting the bat, getting lineup HQ so you can run lineups. I'm going to choose 3 lineups to play in GPP. I don't like hand build. I'm like, I'm going to play this guy, then I'm going to play that guy, then I'm going to play this guy. I run lineup. You can run up to 300 lineups at a time in lineup HQ, and I will just run. I will go, let me take a look at some of these stack constructions. Let me take a look at, okay, let me take out Shane McClanahan. Let me take a look what these lineups look like. And I'll run a bunch of 300 sets, eliminate lineups, and see what shows up more than this versus their ownership. And then I choose 3 out of them. And then I go, okay, I'm going to choose 3. This one, that one, and that one. And there you go. So I'm not looking at players. I'm looking at, oh, this lineup makes sense like this. And, oh, okay, this lineup makes sense like that. So, like, that's why the whole aspect of, like, oh, there's a guy on the show that doesn't watch baseball and doesn't even know who's on what team. It's like, dude, I'll probably beat you at DFS because you know what? I outsource my knowledge of all of that to RotoGrinders and Derek Carty, who give me all the numbers with all that. So do I need to watch the games? No, I don't.
Question for you. When you're talking about like removing the names, I do think, again, and I agree with what you're saying. Of course, I like to watch the games. I like to dig into plate IQ. I like to do a combination of like several things, right? And I've said before multiple times, like I need to be more like Blender. I need to
trust. You need to trust the process, Dean.
I've heard that before. I need to embrace my inner Blender when it comes to baseball because my mind tends to be a little bit chalkier and more cash gamey. But I'm going to embrace that more this year. But I'm just curious. Not all players are the same. As far you talked about DeGrom before being like a safe play, whatever. A player like Hunter Green, who has one of the biggest variances on the board, right? He could. He's one of the gives him a ton of fly balls. He's in a bad ballpark for giving fly balls, Great American Ballpark. So he could potentially get 3 or 4 home runs. He also walks way too many guys. If he's walking too many guys and giving too many home runs, he could be one of the worst pitchers in the slate. He also has a 30% K rate, and he's facing a bad Pirates team. We have to put a median projection on Hunter Green, right? But he feels his range of outcomes is wider than the average. Just pick any other pitcher. Like, right. And I wouldn't be shocked if Hunter Green is the highest scoring pitcher in the slate. Wouldn't be shocked.
And you wouldn't be shocked if he was the lowest scoring pitcher on the slate.
I mean, the lowest, it's possible. Yeah. But like, again, if you want to dig into the numbers stuff, right? As far as walk rate, I think he's got the second highest walk rate in the slate. If you date back to last season, yes, because Blake Snell is on the slate. Blake Snell, of course, he's another one, by the way. He's another one. And like when Snell is kind of chalky, right? The high variance of Snell, he's one of those guys who's supposed to, according to the book, right? Probably embrace more when he's less owned. If he's going to be owned a fair bit, I know the matchup's really good against a terrible Colorado team, and of course they're outside of cores. But generally speaking, I don't really want to be over the field on Snell when he's going to be popular. I guess the point I'm getting at is like, how do you separate that, right? Because you have to put a median score on Green, you have to put a median score on Snell, but their range of outcomes, when you look at what they do, Green might strike out 10, he might give up 2 home runs, he might do both. How do you handle that?
Well, typically I go by Cheese's famous Robbie Ray rule.
Yeah,
right? That's his famous rule, which goes along with my more mathematical, analytical sounding way of in GPPs, I want to embrace variance where the field is not embracing variance, and I want to avoid the variance that the field is embracing. So for the most part, when we have these wide range of outcomes, high standard deviation players, like Zach Greinke ain't a high standard deviation player, right? No. Zach Greinke, what is he going to do? He strikes out 3 a game, 2 a game. He gives up a couple of hits. He doesn't do much, right? You're not going to get a 35-point game from Greinke, but you're probably not going to get a 0, right? He's going to do just enough, but you're probably not going to win a GPP with that. So it's not those types of players, but the players where it's like Blake Snell, he could wider. If he's going to be owned, I'm going to be less likely to play him. And then Hunter Green, if he's low owned, I'd be more likely to play him. But the thing about baseball, though, is that you have pitchers and batters and typically large slates a lot of times you don't necessarily, you could play, like, to me on this slate, Dean, Hunter Green may be lower on, maybe in the single digits of ownership, right? Maybe he's like 6 to 8% owned.
Is he?
But I don't think people are going to play. I don't think people are going to play the Pirates against him also. So I think that, like, even if you look at that, you may say it's a high variance situation. But if he does get killed or does badly, like the Pirates do well. So I'm looking for those types of pitchers, not to play, but to play against when I'm looking at my stacks as well. I'm less likely to stack against, guys like Max Fried, who it's like, oh, I'm not playing Max Fried as a pitcher, but he's not a high standard deviation pitcher to really stack against to get 12 runs off of him also.
You mentioned Fried. I don't stack against Fried. It's hard. It's going to be hard for me to roster him today just because K percentage really, really matters today. He's an awesome pitcher, great real life pitcher. But when you put him against all these other studs as far as racking up Ks, and of course Ks are king, I just don't see him having the best. It's a good matchup against Washington. Washington's a future team. And, the weather is better than, typically in that ballpark. That ballpark, of course, is a hitter's ballpark, but it's in the 40s. And we'll talk about Atlanta in a second as far as the other side. It's just hard for him to compete. And as far as stacking against Fried, I'm pulling up his numbers now. He's an incredible ground ball pitcher. And, home runs. I want home runs. And if the pitcher is throwing a bunch of ground balls, you're probably not going to get many homers off Max Fried. 51.2% ground balls in the season. And that kind of brings us to the Yankees as well. And the Yankees, you can always stack the Yankees, of course. They have Aaron Judge. He walloped a whole bunch of homers last year. Logan Webb is like not the sexiest of names, but he gets the job done and he throws a bunch of ground balls. Sandy Alcantara, a bunch of ground balls. Against the Mets lineup, there's some boppers, but, those aren't necessarily the guys I want to homer hunt again. Now they're going to give up one or two. Is somebody give up a homer? Of course, it's going to happen. And that kind of leads to the conversation I see in the chat. They're talking about the Braves, and the Braves are the clear and obvious, right? A really good lineup. It's not hard to get them against Patrick Corbin. We love in the DFS community, love picking up Patrick Corbin, and he stands out on standard slates. This is a slate where he's way outclassed. He just has no right outside of somebody's got to stand up and say, I guess I'll throw opening day for Washington, and he's nominated. He's not as good as most every other pitcher pitching today, and the Braves have an awesome offense. And how do you handle that as far as ownership? By the way, the Pirates, O'Neal Cruz is going to get a fair bit of ownership. That's a fun matchup, Cruz versus Green. But beyond that, yeah, like you said, the Pirates are basically going to be
right. It's a positional scarcity. Dean, it's more of a positional scarcity at shortstop thing today, and also that you could pay up. It's like that's why the pricing on DraftKings makes it so. I mean, you could play all the chalk together and have no problem. No problem. You could play the Braves with McClanahan and Cole, and you're fine. There's plenty of 2K hitters, 3K hitters, everything like that. I think the chalk bats today, it's going to be Atlanta and it's going to be Minnesota. To me, if you're playing cash games or stuff like that, or smaller field contests, that guys like Gallo and Kepler and Acuna and Buxton as pay up options and in the outfield. Maybe let's see who else at hitter.
Gallo falls back a little bit just because he was projected to bat first and now he's batting seventh, but that means maybe he just hits his homer in the second or third inning as opposed to the first, or he just strikes out because that's what he does a lot. He's one of those guys that people are projecting to be good against the shift. He obviously, when he hits the ball, which is a rare occasion, but when he hits it really, really hard into the right side of the field. The shift rules should help him this year. And Zach Greinke, when do you want to roster Joey Gallo against a pitcher that just does not strike anybody out? And he uses guile at this point to get you out and craftiness. Gallo should hit the ball against Greinke. So that's why he looks like a pretty solid play. And he's also super cheap. I really like the Cincinnati Reds guys. Again, I kind of referenced that before. Friedel and Fraley look really, really interesting, especially on FanDuel. At least one of those guys will be in my cash game lineup. I think Friedel will probably be my DK cash lineup. I'm going to have at least 4 Braves probably in my DK cash lineup because, for tournaments, maybe I'll get away from them. You're supposed to get away from them, at least to some degree, lower than the field. That's what the book says, at least. But in cash, you don't care about ownership. You just want to roster yourself the most optimal of lineups. Blender, who do you have as like your sneaky, your sneaky stacks, your sneaky tournament pivots? What are we looking at if we're not? I know the way you play. You're not playing the Braves and you're not playing Minnesota. I don't want to speak for you, but you're not doing that, right?
I could guarantee you my 3 lineups. Remember, I'm playing smaller field contests, okay, which means I don't have to get like nutso. The things that I'm not going to do. So to me, it's more important to figure out what you're not going to do than what you're going to do first. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not playing Acuna as a one-off, and I'm not playing Buxton as a one-off. Like that, to me, that I look at this and I go, that's the most important thing, because if they do well, they're correlated with the other Twins bats, right? Buxton is correlated with Kepler, right? And Albies and Acuna are correlated to each other, and Riley. So it's like, if I'm not going to be playing the Twins as a stack, and I'm not going to be playing the Braves as a stack, I don't want Acuna or Buxton in my lineup. Like, I don't mind a one-off Albies, right? I don't mind just an expensive, especially in the outfield where you have 3 spots and you could play so many other people. Like, I don't want to play them as one-offs. If I'm going to play a Twin stack, then I'm going to play Buxton. If I'm going to play a Brave stack and then find a way to get different elsewhere, then I'm going to play Acuna. Most likely on this slate, I'm playing neither, right? I think at the totals the way they are, like, these teams don't even have 5 totals. So it's like they're not that dramatically better than so many other teams, even with lower teams. Like you could take a look at like 3.7 team totals and be like, if that's going to be 7 times less owned, like, why don't I just take a shot at one of these 22 teams, right? The 20 out of the 22 teams aren't the Braves or the Twins.
3.7 and 3.4, it's like no difference. Like, who cares? And if you can grab half the ownership or 1/3 of the ownership, like, just lean in. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And I'm much more likely that in all 3 of my lineups will have at least one of Cole or McClanahan, right? So I'm most likely, I may not play Cole McClanahan, but I'm more likely to play Cole plus someone else, right? Maybe not Snell. Maybe Snell. I haven't really. They're all in kind of the same range. So like my batters don't really matter that much, because the pricing between all these pitchers are like 1K difference at most in a range. So I could figure out, like, I'll figure out what's in the bats, and then whatever's left is the pitcher. But I'm going to run. I have the current bat projections and ownership running. I'm just going to run some stuff. What I saw before, because obviously we're starting to get more lineups in than I did like 2 hours ago.
Can I just cut you off for a second? I see several people in the chat talking about this, and I'm running some lineups as well too. And they're talking about San Diego and Colorado not populating in lineup HQ. I just ran some optimal stuff too, and I didn't force anybody in that game, but I don't think I saw anybody. Again, that game was moved from 4:00 to 9 at 8:30, whatever's later tonight. DK, if you look on their homepage, they basically say that game's been moved. It doesn't say it's been canceled. So far as I can tell, that game is still in the pool. Start time has been moved to 9:40 Eastern. Please check your lineups on DK and Fanduel. As far as I can tell, they're keeping it as well. I'm not sure if we did something on our end. Some, producer Steve, producer Devin, if somebody can kind of figure this out on the fly, and maybe they're aware of it, they're trying to fix it. But I don't think, and you tell me, you ran some lineups. Are you seeing any San Diego or Colorado players popping up in your lineups you're running?
Well, it's Snell, yeah. So like it's going through for pitchers at least, right? I think so. I could check. I mean,
there's some Snell on DK. Maybe it was on Fanduel, because I didn't see. I just clicked. I checked Machado, and I saw Machado in 0 lineups, and I'm like, I would imagine.
What I would suggest is to go into our RotoGrinders Discord. There's a channel called Lineup HQ -Help, and they will take care of you. I mean, we can't.
Snell is
we can't even fix anything live on the show, and even if we weren't on the show, we don't have access to.
It's hitting it, apparently. By the way, apparently it's been cured, according to Rhino in chat. Now I just ran some stuff, and I see Snell popping up as well. Just wanted to make sure that was taken care of. I just thought that was worth pointing out, but apparently it's a non-issue. Continue.
Right. So like I built 100 lineups with our current projections. I know we're still waiting on certain lineups and stuff and batting orders or whatever. Okay, because I'm seeing the Royals lineup that just came out. The 2 teams I'm getting the most of are the Twins and the Braves. So like that, that makes sense. Okay. Outside of that, the next batch of teams that show up are Pittsburgh against Hunter Green. Cincinnati, right? I think Cincinnati will end up being like the third highest owned team on the slate.
Yeah.
Right. I think are they sneaky? I don't like using the term sneaky, but for a small field, I could see playing Cincinnati even with, because I mean, you're going to get ownership on like TJ Freed. You're going to get the guys that you mentioned, right? The cheap guys in the lineup.
1 through 4.
Right. Baltimore is overpriced, but because the salary constraints on the slate are not as dramatic, like they come up a decent amount from a ceiling perspective. And same for Boston. I mean, I know it's cold there, but I mean, if you take a look at the totals on those, I mean, both teams have a 4 total. I mean, like,
yeah,
but it's more the fact of like who they're facing. I mean, it's like it's Kyle Gibson versus Corey Kluber. That's more of the reason than it's because it's 40 degrees outside, so the ball may not carry as much. But
that's a 10 game, like
much?
in 3 months, and in midsummer, that's a 10 total,
right?
At least,
right. And then also like Kansas City and Toronto. And I was looking at Toronto before. I don't know, is the Blue Jays lineup out?
I don't believe so, but it's going to be good. And Miles Mikolas is like one of those like crafty pitchers that's not going to blow a ball by you, that kind of thing. And he's serviceable, but he's also a guy that's like not going to strike you out. And if Springer, Bichette, Vladdy, Varsho they added Belts. They got some lefty power now, at least once upon a time with Belt. Kirk is a nice bat. It's a pretty solid lineup, and the ballpark is pretty fair. And it actually, temperature-wise, in comparison to everything else, it's one of the better ballparks. What I'm seeing as far as the weather, it's not in the 40s. Basically, I'm pulling up Weather Edge. We don't have a lot of history as far, Weather Edge, chief meteorologist Kevin Roth, weather tool. You get that with premium, and as far as like the Yankees, we have a 5-game sample. We haven't seen 42 degrees with 12 miles per hour, but in the small samples, it's not great, right? Not surprisingly. Small sample in Washington, in Boston, 20-game sample as far as the current temperature. Runs have decreased at 23.8%. And that nothing to do with who's playing. The players don't matter. Blender likes that, I'm sure. It's just 20 games are played in similar temperature. This is how it played out. Home runs took a hit by 25% as well. Chicago, I thought it'd be worse than this actually because the weather looks pretty bad. Kind of a crosswind, 42 degrees. 53 games, slight bump as far as runs, 2.9%. 12.5% hit as far as homers. It's not great. It's the long story short. There's not a lot of great samples, but it's not great. Pretty neutral in St. Louis. And a slight bump in homers at 14%. The wind is blowing out to left field at 13 miles per hour, and it's a nice, crisp 69. No, didn't want. And in Kansas City, we have just an 11-game sample. In the 11-game sample, it is popping, but 11-game sample, I would not get out of hand on that.
Oh, 11 and 20, that makes such a big difference.
Well, yeah, I'm saying, yeah, it's not. I need, like, generally speaking, and Roth can speak to this better than I can, and I'm sure he will, but I want, 75, 80, 100 games. I want a bigger sample if I can get it. But, yeah, and I see Rad Dad and Chad asking about MLB DFS, any quick tips. We're trying to, like, mix in opening day analysis as well as, like, hey, welcome to MLB DFS. These are some things that you should apply going forward.
I would highly suggest the DFS pregame show that I do every morning. I literally did an MLB primer of since last Monday. So watch all of those episodes. And in fact, last Monday, so that would, whatever date that would be, the 20.
He said quick tips. He doesn't have 19 hours to watch all those videos.
No, but I would say that one show last Monday, literally it's called MLB Heuristics. Yeah, basically it's like if you literally had no projections and no nothing, it's like what's the quickest way to more likely play plus EV lineups and GPPs? And we came down to play good pitchers and build 5-man stacks with high team total teams. Like if you just like Atlanta and Minnesota, right? Shane McClanahan and Garrett Cole. It's like there you go. If you say, oh, well, I don't want to play the Braves, I don't want to play the Twins, then pick another higher total team, right? And then play the pitchers that have against the lowest team total teams. It's like, obviously there's a caveat that well, what happens if he only pitches 4 innings? And like, there's a lot of other stuff that would go into projections. But if you just looked and said, wow, this team has a team total of 2.5, I want to take the pitcher against that team. And like, if you built your lineups that way, right, just pick 2 pitchers that are going against low team total teams and stack teams that have high team totals, like 5-man on DraftKings, 4-man. And then even if you wanted to not play one-offs, make it easy. The other stack on FanDuel, you do another 4-man stack, and on DraftKings, you do another 3-man stack. You know who you should pick in that? Another higher team total. Doesn't have to be the highest, but just like typically the higher team total teams are higher projected. So whatever you could fit in your salary and the positions for that, like heuristically, that's like if you just did that and you played like the $15 large field GPP, I think every day you would be making at minimum competitive lineups. And most likely, long-term profitable lineups.
And the other part of that, too, is like you can go, a month without winning a slate. And I'm sure you have, like the way you play. I don't mean that as an insult, but it's like when you win, when you can go. The point is you can go like 1 win out of like 35 days. But when you win big because your lineup is so specific. And it's
I give the example all the time from 2 years ago or something, or I played 1 full season only because I had the data and everything like that to show at that time that I asked here's the question. I played almost every MLB main slate for an entire year, so that's like maybe like 180 slates. Now I played multiple lineups and everything like that, but how many slates did I lose money on? Which means like I played $500 worth of entries and I got back 440, right? I put in.
You want me to guess?
$600 worth of entries and got like, it doesn't mean I lost it all. It just means I didn't I lost money. I may have lost $20. I may have lost $300. How many slates did I lose money on out of the 100? What percentage out of the 180?
93.
You're close, 94%.
Oh, I just won both showcase showdowns. Go ahead, continue. The back end is you profited,
I lost money on 94% of the slates.
But the 6% of the time you won.
Right. But for my entire season, I made $40,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the 6% of the time that I won, I came in first and won, and I came in second twice for, $10,000 or something. It makes up for all of that. You're playing all the equity is in GPP is at the top. It goes like a hockey stick up there. So really, the only way to be long-term profitable is to just like survive and manage your bankroll long enough, build plus EV lineups until it hits, until you realize your EV, you realize your equity, and you just hope the way that I play, like dude, if I win 1 large field GPP now, and I don't focus as much on large field GPPs as much anymore, but if I just win 1 a year, I'm profitable. I mean, like literally in any sport. If I win a large field GPP for 50K plus, it's hard for me to not have profit for the entire. Like I'm going to be up for the year, like no matter what I do.
I just want to throw this out there. By the way, we decided to change the format a little bit here, and you're a good person to change the format with. Just kind of have the conversation about the slate. If you're looking for like game by game, like look, you can sit there. If you want St. Louis Cardinals versus the Toronto Blue Jays, sure, you can play Brandon Donovan and Goldie and Arenado. And Newbar. I guess if you need a catcher, you can play Wilson Contreras. You don't really want to pick on Alek Manoah, but of course it can happen. Moving on, next side. Like, I don't know how useful that is, and I know you hate that kind of stuff too. As far as like going around the horn, given the plays, catcher first, second, short, third. If that's what you want, you're going to get that. You're going to get that from Carty. You're going to get that from Cheese. They're coming on in about 15 minutes or so. If you want us to like predict homers, I know you hate that so much. I'm happy to answer questions. If you guys have questions in the chat, feel free to throw them out there. I know Blender. If you ask Blender or this guy or that guy question, you're just going to. What's your stock answer? Check the projections.
Right. All I'm going to do is just recite what. Here's this projection number. There's that projection number, and there you go.
So if people are looking for that, and again, you could kind of sort of basically play. I know it's like kind of a joke, but you kind of sort of can play anybody you want in baseball, so as long as you're playing them the correct way, right?
In GPPs, but I can understand in cash, and if you're playing double ups and stuff like that, head to heads, that you want to play high median lineups, right? But of course, a lot of lineups look the same.
I'm playing some cash games. If you guys are, you have some cash questions, feel free to throw them out there. If you have some this guy or that guy questions or overarching, strategy questions, that's the ones they're going to really gravitate to for sure. We got TJ lurking in chat, and I guess Spider-Man is lurking as well, because if we get 150 likes, TJ is going to drop his Spidey bombs. And I'm sure, Blender, you believe that TJ has the ability to communicate with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man has the ability to detect who is going to homer before the game start. Yes? You buy into that nonsense?
No, of course I don't. But I'll go along with it for the sake of getting more likes.
Give me, you're not necessarily going to roster it because, like you said, but you're making, 3 lineups today, but favorite stacks that are going to go unowned. Do you have a couple favorite?
Well, I thought I was going to give my own Spidey, my anti-Spidey bomb.
What's
who's Spider-Man's enemy? Is it the Venom bomb? Is Venom who's the natural villain?
Venom is one of the Sandman. Isn't like a Sandman or something like that?
The Green Goblin,
Kirkwood, unfortunately,
Goblin guy. I don't know comics as much as wrestling.
It's not my wheelhouse either, but the Green Goblin. That's the guy with the big smile.
All I can tell you is that this is. You can figure out who my Venom bombs are by subscribing to the bat projections, because all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the home run column in the statistical projections, and Byron Buxton is at the top.
There you
Kyle
go.
Schwarber's number 2. So we have a home run projection of 0.31 for Buxton, Schwarber 0.3. The next is Alvarez at 0.24. So, if I were to,
not in the slate, Blender, not in the slate, doesn't matter. We're not
I can still predict, right? I can still predict. I mean, then Vlad Guerrero, there's nothing out of my mind. All I'm doing is looking at the projections. So, if you want my Venom bombs, I would suggest you sign up for the bat.
Aren't they just repackaging? You're just repackaging the bat. If I'm hearing you correctly,
well, I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm telling you,
they're just the bat.
I'm reselling.
Why are you stealing the content and repackaging it as Venom bombs?
Well, because TJ is going to be on, I gotta have the anti Spidey bombs.
Kirkwood was supposed to be on here. I'm just finding this out. Apparently, he can't speak. Hopefully Kirkwood's back. Kid Yahoo. Hopefully things are better in your world. But I thought it was a different kind of conflict. I didn't realize you weren't feeling well. But hopefully we catch up soon enough. He wanted to join the conversation and argue.
You're talking about underowned.
Yeah, underowned stacks.
Yeah. Pittsburgh against Hunter Green. Right. I think Neil Cruz will be owned, but I don't think the rest of the Pirates are really going to be owned. I think the Royals maybe a little, maybe. I mean, Melendez will be a bit owned at catcher because catcher always sucks. I think Baltimore, only because they're overpriced, but you could pay for them. So I think Toronto maybe. I think Toronto could get a little bit more ownership than what we have in lineup HQ. Depending on when the lineup comes out, the longer and longer that the Blue Jays don't have a lineup out, the lower and lower owned they're going to be, because people aren't going to
be standard. It's not going to be anything goofy. I don't think. I think it's going to be.
You never know. But if it's not confirmed, people sometimes don't like doing that, right?
Phillies lineup just came out, by the way. Turner, Schwarber, Real Muto, Hall, Castellanos, Stotts, Alec Baum, Jake Cave, and Marsh. The Marlins lineup just came out. And we didn't really dig into this stuff, but and this is stuff I kind of get into, and it's all built into the projection. So I don't know how much you like talking about it, but I love looking at the plate IQ and looking at Ks. Right, some lineups are bad, but they ground out and they pop out, and that's what this Marlins lineup is. Right, it's not a good lineup, but they don't strike out a ton outside of some players. But Luis Ariz they traded for in the offseason. Really was the batting champ over there in the American League. Great contact hitter, not a great hitter outside of, he's not a threat to homer necessarily, but he's not going to strike out. Gene Segura, they also paid in the offseason by Marlins standards, at least. Castaway there for Philadelphia, not necessarily great anymore, but again, he is going to make contact. So how much does that push down the upside of a guy like Scherzer, or Scherzer can just overcome because he's Max Scherzer and, he strikes out the world no matter who he's facing. But Ariz, last season, 7% strikeouts, annoying. 16% strikeouts for Segura, but there are some Ks here beyond that. Cooper at 24%, love Jazz, but he strikes out a good bit at 27%. Jorge Soler, 30%. Garcia Abasael is 27%. Okay, so and at the bottom is Joey Wendell, who they got from Tampa Bay, another contact guy. But yeah, okay, so they have 6 strikeout guys. Max is one of my favorite pitchers in this slate, and I think he's got a chance to actually go 7 if things are going well. And of course, that ballpark is positive as Marlins lineup is pretty putrid. Did you give? I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Did you give your final thoughts as far as your favorite? I just wanted to point this out. For
no, I was just listening. It's similar to what I was saying before. Like the Brewers maybe a little underowned. I mean, to me, I mean, it's MLB DFS. It's more the fact of like the Braves and the Twins will be the most owned. Then if you play anything like dude, if you're building a Braves, Twins, or Twin stack with like Cole, McClanahan, Snell, like a combination of two of those, like you're not playing GPPs today. I mean, like you're playing, you're sharing points with a lot of, you're holding hands with a lot of people. So like,
you can have a couple separators though. What if you're playing a couple guys that are like 3, 4, 5%?
You're right. You can. It's just harder to do that. It's just harder to build that way, right?
Yeah.
Just harder to say. I'm going to share eight spots in my lineups with a lot of people, and then hopefully the two differentiators. I'd rather be a 6v6, 7v7 off of a lot of lineups than 2v2s.
Speak to that, by the way, as far as, and this is kind of stuff you're delving into, and I missed the 121. I'm bummed. You reminded me of it earlier, and I'm like, oh, that's one of my favorite contests to hit. And I guess
121 single entry is the softest contest in the DraftKings lobby.
Well, because people go super, super chalky, right? And I'm sure you can kind of speak to that. And that's kind of what I was asking you. And yeah, like if the core slate goes nuts, like you're probably going to lose. But and it's sort of like a cash game on steroids, just kind of going through it. And I'm sure you delve into that stuff more than I do as far as digging into the results DB and checking out like what ownership happens to be. But large field stuff, ownership numbers are going to be a little bit held down. People are MMEing, that they're kind of spreading out. But if you only have one bullet or you have 3 bullets and a 3-entry max, people tend to gravitate to the good stuff. They don't want to miss out on the can't miss hitter. But of course, every hitter is missable. Every hitter, every one of them could go over 5. One of them, you can go 1 for 4 with a double and 2 RBIs. And guess what? Didn't matter. Didn't need him. And he didn't play terrible.
Like Buxton could hit a home run, like a 2-run home run for 16 points. And it's like, well, what happens if you don't have him?
Fine.
Fine.
You can survive that.
16 points the other way.
Yeah. You can survive all that.
Are we showing Hunter Green pitching?
We are showing Hunter Green pitching. What it's as far as that's how you're going to beat the slate, by picking on Hunter Green? Or
I mean, if I stack the other team, I just got 2 points right there. Hit by pitch.
Yeah. So how do you handle that? Is you're talking about the large field stuff, but like single entry, 3-entry max, how much do you adjust your play, and how much do you adjust to what you think the field's going to do? Because I think that you think, and the field's going to be super chalky, and therefore you're going to be, look, if you finish last, there's no shame in that. Who cares? As opposed to finishing like in the 40th percentile, there's no bonus for that. Like, oh, look at Blender at the bottom, whatever, LOL. Okay, I'll win tomorrow. I'll win in a month. I'll win next week. Yeah, so just kind of talk about that as far as your 3-entry max, single entry strategy.
The smaller field, the smaller field of contest, and the more single entry, the less max entry, the ownership condenses more. But realize it condenses more at the top, but not the middle. So people are like, oh, I'm just going to discount I'm going to raise everyone over here and lower everyone over there. The middle typically doesn't move. So for instance, in small field GPPs, in like the 121 single entry, like if we have, let's just say Cole, McClanahan, and Snell will all be around 30% owned, right? They'll be around 30, 35% owned in large field. So if you're playing the $15 or whatever the hell on DraftKings today, those 3 pitchers are going to be around 30% owned. In the 121, these pitchers are going to be like 50+%, 55%. Yeah. I mean, like ridiculously more. Now, Corbin Burns, I have the ownership for Corbin Burns at like around 15% in the large field. He'll probably be around 15% in the 120. Like anyone that doesn't play any of those 3 pitchers, some will play Burns, some will play Nola, some will play Scherzer, some will play whatever. Now the pitch, like Corey Kluber's ownership will be almost 0. He'll be like 1% in the large field, but he'll be virtually 0. Like the ones on the bottom, Marcus Stroman will be like 3% in the large field. He'll be like 0.4% in like almost out of 459 entries. He may be 0%. I mean, literally maybe 0% owned. So like all those stuff on the bottom, you could kind of get rid of, and the middle doesn't change that much. But the bulk at the top, like Buxton, if we have Buxton's ownership at like 17 to 20% in large field, like he could be like 40% owned in the 121. Acuna could be.
What's the number where it's like that's too high? Do you have like a definitive number? And obviously, this stuff changes the variables depending on how big the slate is and yada yada, and how good the pivots happen to be. But like 40% for a hitter, just as a general thought,
as a one-off, to me, if as a heuristic, as a one-off, if on a larger slate, we're not talking about with the opportunity cost is high. On a large slate.
Are you getting paid by the heuristic mention? Because I feel like we're at like 7
I like using the term to say that like this isn't like this is a blunt way of thinking about it. This is not the precise way of thinking about it.
I googled it earlier, by the way. I'm on to you. I now know what it means. I fully caught up. But continue.
Like one-off bat on a slate of 10 plus games, one-off batters that have 20% ownerships. Like I just like X, like it's just like why? If I stack the team, yes. But why am I playing one-off batters that, when I could play like anyone else in that range? We go to the batting range, like a Buxton's 5,800, right? Like, why can't I play like Aaron Judge? Well, he projects lower, but he's Aaron Judge.
2% ownership is outrageous. Yeah.
Right. Why can't I play Starling Marte?
Yeah.
Well, he does
that's a step
lower,
down.
But why can't I play Cedric Mullins?
That's a better
Why can't I play Juan Soto? Why can't I play Stanton? Why can't I? I mean, like, I'm not listing people that suck. I'm just listing people that are good players. They just happen to be in slightly worse matchups. To me, it's very similar to basketball, where it's like, well, where do you get contrarian? It's like I typically get contrarian with good players, right? I try to play the star play, the better players when they're not owned. It's not about playing the $3,800 guy that is the ninth guy on the bench that may get 22 minutes. And I'm going to play him at 2% owned, and hopefully the game blows out. It's like, no, I'm going to play. Everyone is playing Giannis on the slate, and I'm playing Luka, right? Everyone is playing Jimmy Butler, and I'm playing Steph Curry. Like
they're really good too. Yeah,
right. And
you mentioned Corbin Burns. You mentioned Burns in passing. Like he's facing a terrible Cubs team that strikes out a ton, right? This Cubs team versus righties last season struck out 23.7%. There's 3 contact guys like Gomes and Hosmer and Horner, but otherwise these guys pop as far as K potential. 30.5% Ks for Burns. And we didn't even mention, I don't think we mentioned Aaron Nola in this show. Like Aaron Nola is awesome. Hunter Green, we talked about in passing. Max Fried kind of mentioned in passing. It's the pivots are really, really good. Like sometimes it's like you make the decision, I'm not going to play this guy because he's too popular. Then you say, okay, now I got to find somebody that's going to beat him or compete with this guy. And the pool is rough, but it's not. It's when it comes to the pitchers, at least the pitchers are fabulous. They're spectacular. And I'm sure, we have Carty and we have Cheese coming on momentarily, and they'll talk about that as well. And one of the things Dave talked about in the expert survey, he was mentioning just spread out because as smart as Dave is, he can't tell you that, of course, Shane McClanahan's the top pitcher today.
Here, he can tell you.
Well, all right. Dave Potts, can you tell me with certainty? Welcome, by the way. I enjoyed the musings. It's not officially baseball season until the musings are back. We got Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist, always useful, Kevin Roth, but especially useful around baseball season. Did the Padres do you a favor? Was there potential nonsense out there in San Diego?
Yeah, there's still a little potential nonsense, but yes, that was a good choice moving it back. I liked it.
Hey, let me ask you guys this before we go any further. Am I sideways at all? Like my camera looks like it's like this, but then when I look at myself on the screen, I look kind of straight, but I feel like, I don't know. Do I look sideways?
No, you're tilting this way a little.
Yeah, the camera's like absolutely a little funky here.
You're 7 feet tall, Dave, so it's a little tricky to figure out the camera.
We'll figure that out, but anyway, I'm tilted a little. But how are you?
Tilted already.
I'm doing well, talking to Blender, talking about this slate. And opening day is always that weird conundrum where it's like, oh, opening day, I love baseball. Oh, wait, there's like no hitters that I like. And there's some I like, but none you really love. And the weather stinks, too, as far as hitting baseballs. We also have, to help us figure it out, and we're going to turn it over in just a second, if you loved the Blitz, you'll love the Bat. What's up, Carty? Welcome back. Baseball season. Let's do it.
Let's go. I am so excited baseball is here. Like, this is opening day is like Christmas morning.
Yeah. I can't wait to, as much as I want to chat with you guys, the people want to hear. They had our fill. We got an hour and 15 minutes in, myself and Blender. We hit our quota. We want to step aside and make way for the Fanduel sponsor, Crunch Time. Unless you got anything else, Blender, I think we should just yield to the Crunch Time crew.
Best
team in the business.
I will always recommend the start of the baseball season. I do stuff very manually, right? I write down my stuff because I'm always making these like round robins on Prize Picks and Underdogs. So I always have to keep track of like, okay, I got this one with that one, and this one with that one, and this one with that one. And I couldn't do all of this and make, I think last baseball season I made over $20,000. On low, I mean, we're not talking about $100 pick. We're talking about like $10, $20, 2 picks or whatever. Just by getting the bat and just waiting for the board to come out early and just slamming the ones that are, I mean, I placed Prize Picks last night and this morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 have moved in my favor on Prize Picks or Underdog. So like I could only chalk that up to like, CLV on these types of props aren't like the be all end all. But if you want to actually like beat the numbers, like you need a way to change player names into numbers. And the way that I do it is with the bat. So there's like and I have to say that whatever Hardy charges for the bat should be 10 times higher. So get it before I eventually convince him to charge more money.
He tries every year. Every year he says, Carty, when are you going to start charging, 4 or 5 figures for the bat? And you never know. Maybe one of these years. So get in while you can.
His new strategy this year is to be like his face this big when you come on to tell you, do it.
I was convinced since he went in on me. I was on the fence for a second. I'm like, oh wait, no, he really means this. Of course, the bat is spectacular. I use it as well. Hey, myself and Blender, we're going to step aside. It's the Fanduel sponsor, Crunch Time. You got the best in the business, the best combination. You got Carty and you got Cheese. Hopefully an argument organically happens. We'll get it at some point throughout the season. It's opening day. Everybody's in a good mood. Roth, take it away.
I appreciate it. Good stuff as always. And yes, welcome to it, ladies and gents. It is the day that many have been waiting for. Certainly these two who I'm joined by. It's the day that I dread all year. It is MLB opening day. Now, I'm excited about it. And as you look at the chat here on YouTube, a bunch of people saying, hey, the gang's all here, familiar faces. Woo Woo J Train says, you look so lovely, Cheese. It's good to see you, Roth, and the boys. And you do. You look excellent, Cheese. How are you, sir?
I feel fine. I look great. I feel just fine.
But you've been hibernating for 6 months, so like you have your beauty rest.
Yeah, I did. I was up at 5 this morning, just like, it's baseball. I didn't tend to get up at 5, but I was just up, just sitting around thinking about baseball.
I did the same thing. I got up at 4:50 just to do a weather forecast. That wasn't necessary. It was just like, it just happened. I don't know. It happened organically. I woke up excited and knocked out a relatively easy forecast. I'm pleased about that. We'll talk more to you, Cheese, in a bit, but also we have Derek Carty, already mentioned, the purveyor of the Bat and the Bat X Enterprises. What up, Carty?
The Bat X Enterprises is back, Roth. Back for another year.
Man, people are so stoked about it. Like, I don't want to spend a whole show, giving you love on your product, but it literally just gets positive reviews no matter what. So good work.
Thank you. It's always nice.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're happy that you joined us here because we certainly appreciate your takes and two of the sharpest minds in the biz to help guide us through it. Weather-wise, I don't think there's anything we really have to worry about. Cheese, what interest do we have in pitchers in San Diego? I meant everybody's got a good pitcher.
Yeah,
I imagine.
Yeah, but Blake Snell is out there, and he's one of the more popular options. So it is important.
I just think you play it. I think if there's a delay in this game, in case you missed it, the game was supposed to be an afternoon game, in which case there was a pretty good shot of a delay. It's now an evening game, which really lowers that chance of a delay. I think if anything, it's more likely that you see a late start than an in-game delay, which would be fine. And I expect the game will play regardless. So I think you just play it. You play everything everywhere. And as we get a little bit closer to first pitch, of course, I can look at radar and say, okay, never mind. But
the problem is because that game is 8 hours out, like there's nothing you can do. If you play Snell, you can't swap him later.
You're eating it. Yeah. All right. Well, I think you just play him. I don't think it's worth the fade, although I do realize there's 12 good options that you could move to if you don't want the risk, right? But I really think it is a lower end risk. The other thing I'll note, if you haven't looked at the temperatures early in the season, you have to look at temperatures. I know Carty is big on that as well. There are so many games getting played in the low 40s and even upper 30s today the ball does not carry as well in those cold weather games. So that is essentially all along the East Coast. Chicago, Carty, something to add?
Well, and I mean, it's cool. I always love this time of year because we have a few of those in the low 40s, and then we have a few that are like 70 degrees. So like it's a big difference between some games in terms of weather today.
Yeah.
Kevin, tell us right off the bat, what are the best hitting spots weather-wise?
I think St. Louis and Kansas City. Carter, would you agree? I mean, of course, yeah. Temperature-wise, it's St. Louis and Kansas City. Kansas City also has winds out to left at like 15 to 20 miles per hour. Both of those games are going to be in the mid 60s to low 70s temperature-wise, which isn't amazing. But when you compare it to, games in the low 40s in New York and Boston and Chicago, that's a big advantage.
Yeah, it looks like also the Arlington game is like almost 70 degrees with double-digit winds blowing out, assuming the roof is open there, and Miami's 80 degrees, assuming the roof is open there.
Right. Yeah. If any of those locations where either it's closed in, that's a win because it's 72 degrees, which is better than what you're going to get in most spots, or in both those spots, as you mentioned, if it's open, that's a win as well. Pitching wise, you got literally everywhere else, but enough weather talk. If you have any questions, you can drop it in the YouTube or the RG Discord. Cheese, let's talk a little bit about this slate, man. Let's kind of dive into it. We like starting with pitcher, but you can just address it in general if you want.
Yeah, I mean, the big picture is it's a whole bunch of aces, which immediately is a whole bunch of offenses that are, just you're only playing them if you're just trying to be super sneaky. Mm-hmm. My general strategy, which I touched on in the article, out of the top, basically like 8 to 10 pitchers. We'll talk about what you want that group to be, or you can have it down to 5 or 6. But like among those aces, I'm just spreading it out. I can't predict whether Burns or Nola or Cole or McClanahan or Snell or Scherzer or even DeGrom on 75, 80 pitches. Which one of them is going to be the best on opening day? I have no idea. I think it's silly to just say that the pitch counts are going to be a little all over the place. Like most of them, other than DeGrom, should be normal-ish. Like I don't think people are going to get cut off at 80. I think we'll see a lot of 90, 95 pitches, guys going 6 innings. But it's unlikely we get like any extreme ceiling games either. And we're not going to see the 125 pitch complete games on opening day.
If there's one guy that can do that, I think it's Scherzer. He threw 100 pitches in his last spring training start. So like if he wanted to just throw 115, like he could do it.
Well, he wants to.
Yeah.
He wants to. Yeah. But really all these guys are not going to be that different than they are at any point in the season. Like we're going to get 90 to 100 on most of these aces. So but you don't know who's going to be at their best the first start. There's always some of that. So I'm just spreading it out. And when I say spreading it out, let me kind of clump them together. I think McClanahan on DraftKings is the chalk because of the price, even though salary doesn't really matter. That's another big takeaway. Like on DraftKings, the pitchers are too cheap, and on Fanduel, the hitting's cheap enough. You can really play anyone and make a good lineup. But still, a $7,700 McClanahan on DraftKings is probably the chalk with Cole. I think that's kind of the primary duo. For me, Cole, McClanahan, Burns, Nola, Scherzer are the top 5. Snell, well, I guess what I want to talk about, Blake Snell and Hunter Green. When I originally looked at this slate, I thought Hunter Green was going to be the chalk because people like a kid that throws 100 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. And he's facing Pittsburgh. Snell projects better. Now, the Bats projected ownership has Snell like way higher, and RG's projected ownership has Snell higher. So I guess Snell is chalky and Green is not. That makes me like Hunter Green better. Like crazy high variance guy. They're both high variance guys. So I don't actually love either of them. Like I would rather just play McClanahan with Cole or Burns or Nola or Scherzer. But because the ownership is showing so much higher on Snell, I'm gonna prefer Hunter Green to Snell. But both of those guys are, if someone's gonna get blown up, it's one of those two guys.
Mm-hmm. Okay, on FanDuel you only get one. Are you just sticking to those more top of the line guys?
Yeah. So on FanDuel, like McClanahan's 10-4, Burns is the top at 11. Snell at 9,500 and Hunter Green at 91 are going to be a little more popular because that salary is a little more useful. And I do have, I think, 2 lineups with Mitch Keller, who, again, that is not a good play. I do not recommend that to you. But I wanted to make a lineup where I just played like Judge and Acuna and Buxton just because it was fun. But yes, it's the same group. You can afford Cole, Burns, Scherzer, Nola, McClanahan, and that's what I recommend is those 5 players. Carty might include Snell in that group.
He would.
And so, but out of that group, I think you just spread it out. I think to just say, hey, this guy's better than the other 5 is kind of silly.
Yeah. Okay. On DK, you mentioned you went down on FanDuel. I think it was FanDuel for one cheap guy. Is there anybody else down there? There's so many good pitchers.
On DraftKings, I cannot recommend going cheap. It's just so not necessary. You can't even spend the money if you do it, and you're just getting far worse pitchers.
Gotcha.
I don't have a single person lower than Hunter Green, and you don't even need to go down to Hunter Green. You can stick at Nola or higher at 81 and get 2 guys, or McClanahan at 77. Don't go cheap on DraftKings.
Okay, easy enough. Carty,
Yeah.
you want to talk some pitching for us?
Well, the great thing about this slate is because there's so much high-end pitching, some of these guys are going to fall through the cracks and not be very owned. The bat is projecting Scherzer and Nola to be 10% owned, which is pretty crazy, especially since Scherzer really does have the highest upside on this slate. Doesn't project the best. But in GPPs, I think they're probably the ones that I would have the most interest in addition to maybe Max Fried and Logan Webb. But in cash, yeah, Cheese is exactly right. Cole and McClanahan, I think, are going to be the chalk. I think Snell, or the bat at least thinks Snell, is going to be pretty chalky. And I do like him. I think in cash, if there's weather risk, you just play McClanahan. But the bat does like Snell every bit as much as McClanahan. And for good reason. The Colorado Rockies are a bad team. They're not in Coors Field. And, Snell's theoretically more stretched out than McClanahan is. Like Cheese said, a lot of these guys are going to be pretty stretched. We're not going to see a whole lot of guys getting pulled early, probably. We had a full spring training this year, unlike last year where we had the lockout and then guys weren't fully ramped up. Everyone's more or less ramped up here. There's a couple exceptions, but everyone is more or less ramped up. The guys that I would have the most concern about not being ramped up based on what they threw in spring would be guys like Hunter Green, Pablo Lopez, and kind of other guys that we don't really care that much about. But in terms of the aces, they should all pretty much be good to go. McClanahan, though, does pitch for the Rays. Information on him was a little hard to come by. You never know if the Rays just say, well, it's your first start, you're young, you're done at 85 pitches, which is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that's kind of the move. The bat does like Cole the best. The Giants are not especially good. Let's call it that. They're, probably a bottom third offense, and it's some of the best pitching weather there. It's 45 degrees. And so I think if I'm picking one, for FanDuel, I'm just picking Cole. But in GPPs, you can, again, mix in all those other guys. You can mix in Scherzer, Nola, Webb. I think the only true ace that I don't really have interest in is DeGrom, which is weird because he's just so freaking good. But he is going to be limited to 70 or 75 pitches. And I think on this slate, he just doesn't have the upside of some of these other guys.
Gotcha. All right. We'll talk some bats here in just a minute. Quick note, though, you'll notice this show is free. That's thanks to our sponsor, FanDuel. Shout out to FanDuel. If you're in a legal sports betting state, take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. Offer not available in Massachusetts because if you're in Massachusetts, you get the offer of bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets. Let's kind of discuss the flip side of this, guys. The pitchers are all great. The bats are a bit of an issue. And usually before we even go player by player, position by position, we talk about what stacks we're targeting. I have no idea what I'm supposed to stack. Carty, is there a stack that you like here? What's the chalk stack? What's good?
I think the chalk stack is going to be the Twins. Zach Greinke is the worst pitcher on this slate. He's not good. He allows a lot of contact. The Twins have, quite a few good bats in the lineup. So they're the best team on the slate, and they're going to be the highest owned. That said, they're not like so much better than everyone else that you need to be all on them with the high ownership. So like there are other teams that you can think about here. I think the Orioles look good. I think the Pirates against Hunter Green look good. I think the Reds look really good. And there's probably another five or six that you can make a strong case for.
Cheese, you want to add any names to that? What are your thoughts?
I think along with the Twins, I think the Braves are the other chalk. I think that's your two main spots that you have to kind of worry about ownership. Other than that, there's a few players here and there that'll be chalky, but I think stack wise, if you're not playing the Twins or the Braves, I don't think you'll run into just crazy high ownership.
Okay. Any other ones that you like in particular that maybe are not crazy high ownership, but you think could be worthy?
I like Toronto. I like San Diego a little bit. Very much on that Baltimore train. And I've got some Tampa interest.
Okay. All right. TJ, by the way, in the chat says 25 more likes for those of you watching on YouTube. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up. He'll drop the Spidey bomb, which is essentially just a home run call. So if you want some home run calls there in the YouTube chat.
What do you mean essentially just a home run call? It's a Spidey bomb. It's not essentially just anything.
You're right. It is a Spidey bomb. It is not just anything. It is a fantastic Spidey bomb. So make sure you're hitting those likes for us. Frederick says, any love for Boston, gentlemen? A little bit.
Yes. I think everyone's going to like Devers a lot. I have several Boston stacks. I mean, I have a fair amount of lineups, but Boston is up there.
Okay, very good. TJ just absolutely destroying me for calling it a home run call. I'm sorry. It is a Spidey bomb.
That was offensive.
It was rude on the first day of baseball season to disrespect the Spidey bomb. You can tell I'm off my game. All right, guys. I feel like we've covered pitcher pretty well here. We've talked about the stacks. Let's go position by position. Cheese, should we start on FanDuel, work our way all the way around, and then do DK, or is it similar enough?
I think we can group them together, mostly because salary is just not that much of a thing here.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it then. Let's start a catcher, and Cheese, you get the honor of walking us through it.
Yeah. So catcher, it's not even just a DK thing. Like the catcher first base spot on FanDuel, we'll throw in here as well. But like on DraftKings, where you need just a catcher, I think Sean Murphy is the chalk cash game guy because he's 3,400, batting fifth for the Braves. My favorite play by far is Adley Rutschman, and I like him even on FanDuel as a first baseman. The Royals guys are of interest just because they're good. Like as far as catchers go, Sal Perez is a guy, as long as he doesn't age suddenly, I'll be playing him every day, all year, kind of no matter what. But really, Murphy and Rutschman are kind of the standouts with those Royals. And then I do like Alejandro Kirk. I mentioned the Blue Jays as kind of worth a shot. That's all I particularly like. And then there's just things that happen to exist in stacks.
Okay, fair enough. Carty, you got any names you want to add to that?
No, I'm kind of with Cheese here. Kirk was the guy I was going to mention. I think Kirk is every bit as good as Murphy or better.
I assume coming in at lower ownership.
Yeah, the bat thinks it's going to be close, but just kind of, I would have to think, Cheese is right that Murphy's going to be the one that people gravitate more towards because it's the Braves and Corbin, and people just hate Corbin. So yeah, that's kind of it for catcher.
Okay, then take us to first, Carty.
First base, there's actually a lot of options at first base. I think Joey Gallo is going to pick up a good amount of ownership at 3.1K, and Jose Miranda in the same lineup at 3.3 on the Twins, because the Twins, it's Greinke and they're cheap. So they're both going to be popular options. In the same lineup as Kirk, I think Vlad Guerrero is probably your top high-end option if you want to spend up. Yandy Diaz leading off for the Rays at 4.3, I think is a really good option. And if you are doing the Braves thing, which I don't think you have to with their ownership, they don't even project awesome. If I was going to play a high-end stack, I'd rather play the Twins. But Matt Olson, lefty, may be a guy that people aren't plugging in as much as they're plugging in, Acuna or, guys like that. So I think he's interesting in those stacks.
Cheese first.
On the FanDuel side, if you are playing one of the top pitchers that's over 10K, you do need a few cheap bats. And so if you're not going up to Guerrero, I think like Justin Turner is 2,600. Someone like him or Yandy Diaz, you can also play at first on FanDuel. That's about it. Like it's an okay position. It's not super deep though. And I don't really love anything. There's no must plays.
So
Two thoughts. Yeah, go for it, Carty.
So in terms of like under the radar type guys, I mentioned liking Baltimore and Pittsburgh stacks. Like Mountcastle, I think is great on both sites. And I think all the Pittsburgh guys like Carlos Santana, I think is really interesting for cheap, especially in your Pittsburgh stacks.
All right, got a question in the RG Discord, by the way, who just says, hey, is the chat happening in the RG Discord? And yes, we're in the MLB Crunch Time chat on Discord. Make sure you're joining in on that. When I do take questions at the end of the show, I will start in the Discord channel. Then I will move over to YouTube. So make sure you're signed up, joined up, hanging out with us on the Discord. It's where all the cool kids are going to be hanging out for the next like 6 or 7 months right there in the MLB channel.
And let me mention, while you mentioned the MLB Discord, what's the name of the guy who just asked about Brandon Belt? And then I'll answer the question.
Okay, let's see. Someone just that is NBA DFS or NBAD.
Thank you. You almost said it wrong. Yes, I actually do have Brandon Belt as kind of a large field tournament, like minimum salary power upside guy. Sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's go through second base. Jeez.
Ozzie Albies should be the chalk. He would definitely be my cash game play.
Or Randy in the chat says Albies is the best play on the slate. He has got to be the Spidey bomb. We don't know, but do you agree with that? He's one of.
I mean, because of the position, yes. Second base is really bad, especially on FanDuel. We don't even have Jazz Chisholm at second base. It's basically Albies, India, and Cronenworth, and that's kind of it. And then you're just like throwing super dull darts, which don't stick to anything. I guess I like Cronenworth best as the Albies pivot, but it's just a truly terrible position. So I'm treating this kind of the way we used to talk about catcher, where I'm just playing whoever's left in my stack. I prefer the catcher position better. So I would rather pay up for Rutschman or Sal Perez or something and then just punt a second baseman in my stack.
You're throwing like those plastic darts, the plastic tip ones that just bounce off the dartboard all the time.
Yeah, like they're good for nothing, but people still throw them.
God, I hate those things. All right, Carty, second base. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Albies is the guy that's going to be really popular. The bat likes Jonathan India just as much, if not more. And on FanDuel, he's a little cheaper and projects slightly higher. So I think India is a good play. But like she said, Cronenworth, I think, is fine. I think on DraftKings, I don't think you have to get to Albies. You certainly can. He's good. But if you wanted a cheaper option, you have Nick Gordon in that Twins lineup, and you have Ji-Hwan Bae in the Pirates lineup for 2.5K. And so I'm certainly fine with that.
Is he your Bae? Is that what you would? I don't know. It's early. It's opening day. Carry on.
It's what the kids say, Carty. Don't worry about it. All right, Carty, take us to third base.
Yeah, so I think Rafael Devers is going to be the guy that people want to get up to. Austin Riley for the Braves, I think, is also going to be pretty popular. The bat likes Devers more. He's in a better park. He's against a pitch to contact guy in Gibson. He's the better hitter probably. So I think they're both really good. I don't think you can really go wrong playing either one, but I think Devers and Riley are both really good. I think Bobby Witt is totally fine as a pivot. I think in terms of cheaper guys, Yandy Diaz and Justin Turner, who got mentioned at first base, I think they're both in the mix here at third on FanDuel as well. In your Baltimore stacks, Gunnar Henderson, even though I don't love prospects, Gunnar Henderson is hitting fifth. He's pretty good. Baltimore stacks look good, so I'm good with Gunnar Henderson too.
Cheese.
Yeah, as terrible as second base is, third base is fantastic. Like it makes up for it. I would put Machado, Devers, and Riley as the three like very obvious great plays. I think on DraftKings, Riley will be the chalk because of the salary. On FanDuel, it will be pretty split up. I have a slight preference for Machado actually out of those three, but like to me, it's like a two third baseman type of FanDuel build with two of those three guys if you can. And the other names that he mentioned cheaper, like your Yandy Diaz or Gunnar Henderson, Justin Turner again on FanDuel 2,600. And then if you want 4 or 5 home runs later tonight, Matt Carpenter is 2,700. But like we should say, there is some chance that he's not in the lineup. He's probably going to bat 5th. But we don't actually know what they're going to do. And we also don't know what they're going to do. Like he and Nelson Cruz might really just be one player this year, where as soon as the first lefty comes in, it switches to Cruz. So as much as I love Carpenter, I always will, and he's going to hit a home run in his first at bat. Can't say for sure that he's playing or where he's batting or how long he's going to play.
Okay. Take me to shortstop, Cheese.
Also pretty good up top. I think Correa is the chalk, and he is the best play. He's only 3,000 on FanDuel. That's kind of silly. He's harder to get on DraftKings. I think Gunnar Henderson will pick up a little more steam there because it's only 4K. I like Bobby Witt a pretty good bit. O'Neal Cruz is like it's a high variance batter against a high variance pitcher. Like Hunter Green versus O'Neal Cruz, like should be 3 strikeouts and a home run. Like
Right.
that's such a
power
wild
versus
matchup.
power.
Yeah. But he's a high upside tournament play, not sneaky, but I think Correa will take enough of the ownership that you don't have to worry about it. I love Aaron Nola today, and I'm not really stacking Texas, but you all remember how much I like Corey Seager, and he's still in my pool. Wander Franco in Rays stacks. Carty mentioned Nick Gordon on DraftKings being really cheap. You can play him at short as well, although I'd much rather play him at second.
Okay, Carty, shortstop. Anything else, Cheese? Sorry.
I think that's it. I was looking, but yeah, that's it.
Okay, Carty, short.
Yeah, outside of Nick Gordon, there's really nothing cheap to like. Correa and Cruz are the top guys with kind of Witt and Seager, kind of that next group. Trey Turner's really interesting because DeGrom, if you get on against him, is very easy to steal against. But really, I think Correa and Cruz are the two. Hunter Green, everyone's like so excited about this guy, but we don't even know if this guy is good yet. He throws hard, but he's also pitching in Cincinnati in an extreme home run ballpark. And there's big upside here for Cruz and the Pirates lineup in general.
Okay, let's go to the outfield.
So we said the 2 chalk stacks are going to be Twins and Braves, and the 2 linchpins of those stacks are most likely going to be Byron Buxton and Ronald Acuna. They're the top 2 outfielders on the slate. They'll probably be the top 2 highest owned on the slate, and for good reason, because they're both really good. You probably can only afford one of them in cash games, at least. Buxton is, I think, the superior of the 2. And then you have, more mid-range, cheaper guys that project really well. You have TJ Friedel for Cincinnati, I think is a really good play today. And you have the Twins guys, you have Kepler and you have Gallo. And I mentioned them at second base, I think earlier, but Ji-Hwan Bae, Cheese made a really bad joke about it. That
wasn't a joke. I was just asking a question. I mean, carry on.
Yeah, he's in play. I think definitely the Baltimore guys in your Baltimore stacks, look really good. Cedric Mullins and whoever, Santander and whoever else is there. Those are so yeah, that's what I'm into.
Okay, very good.
And Brian Reynolds in your Pittsburgh stacks, of course.
Okay. Cheese, what are you doing in the outfield?
Yeah, there's so much here. You can kind of build the rest of your lineup first if you want, and then decide whether you have salary. And if you do, great, play Buxton and Acuna, the good chalk.
Mhm.
Or play, I do like the Baltimore guys. Brian Reynolds is definitely my favorite Pirate. Then you got like the cheap twins are going to be really popular on DraftKings. Pretty popular on FanDuel as well, like Kepler at least. But like Gallo, Kepler, and Larnach, along with Friedel, are super cheap on DraftKings. And that's kind of a really easy way to make anything else work. You don't need them quite as much on FanDuel. And you can swap to different cheap guys. The ownership will get spread out. Like, Adam Duvall or Jake Fraley are down there as well. Jesse Winker. There's plenty of things in the mid twos on FanDuel to do whatever you want. And then we also have, like, you can go all the way down to 2K on DraftKings if you want. We've got like these children that everybody likes. Jordan Walker and Will Benson are both minimum salary. Talented children as children are. So go anywhere you want, but I don't think you have to prioritize outfield first because there's stuff to like at every price range.
Okay. Very good. Guys, we got plenty of time for QQs, so get those into the YouTube chat, to the Discord. I want to ask some season-long questions before we keep rolling here. Just season-long hot takes. Each of you, give me a prediction about a team and a prediction about a player that you feel strongly about this year. Cheese, you got anything for me off the top of your head on either of those?
I feel strongly about nothing. I don't know.
Okay. All right, I'll go to Carty. Carty, you got anything from you or the bat that you feel maybe the general public is against that you like?
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at this stuff for betting purposes the last couple of weeks, so I've talked about this a little bit already. But I think the Mets are overrated, which everyone hates me for saying. I think the Angels are super underrated.
Boo.
Everyone does hate you for saying it, apparently. Yes.
And Aaron Nola is one of the best pitchers in baseball. And at least in betting markets, his odds of winning the Cy Young, or really his odds of anything, are like not near the other top guys. So I guess people are too low on Aaron Nola.
Okay.
Aaron Nola Cy Young is a great idea. I'll just straight up go with that one.
He was 15-1 when like you can get like Verlander, whoever at, like 6-1 or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good takes. Hey, by the way, TJ in the chat says we're literally like 5 likes away from the Spidey bomb. And it was my fault because I undersold the Spidey bomb. So now I'm telling you, hit those likes, get that Spidey bomb, because whoever Spider-Man picks is almost definitely going yard. So make sure you hit that like.
I don't know why you say words like almost when you say that, but yes.
There's been some legal changes behind the scenes here that I have to be very careful with my wording these days. So he's almost definitely going to hit a home run with the Spidey bomb. So make sure you're hitting that like button for us. Guys, let's get to some of these questions. We have time. I think we've got about 15 minutes here until lock, which is pretty good. Scrolling up just a wee bit in the old Discord here on RG, and we've got Razzle Dazzles. Is Albies a lock at second, Cheese, in DK Cash?
I mean, I wouldn't quite say a lock because you're allowed to go cheaper. I would definitely play him in DK Cash personally, though.
Okay. I like this question from Mike. He says, opening day, a lot of crazy things happen early on in the season. For Carty and Cheese, hitting-wise, how are you getting weird today? Carty, what is your kind of getting weird, getting off the chalk hitting-wise today?
I guess it's like the Orioles and the Pirates.
Cheese, how are you getting weird today? I mean, like baseball-wise, I don't actually want to know what you do opening day.
Yeah. First of all, you don't have to get that weird. I think just not playing the Twins and the Braves, and you're okay. I'll say the Blue Jays are probably my favorite. They're not, I mean, nothing super sneaky, but I think that's off the radar enough.
All right. We got the Spidey bomb, by the way, official. It is Dalton Varsho.
Speaking of the Blue Jays.
All right. Any interest in a little Varsho?
Yeah, clean up for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, that's a good spot to be. All right, here, let's jump back into some of these QQs. FanDuel GPP, how do you feel about a cheap DJ LeMahieu at second base leading off? Carty, I'll give that one to you.
How do I feel about DJ LeMahieu?
How do you feel? How does it make you feel?
I mean, he makes me feel nothing. I didn't even know he's still playing baseball. I don't think I've ever rostered DJ LeMahieu in my life.
Well, he's cheap. He's at second. You guys said second sucks, and he's leading off. So that would be like the pros there.
I mean, let me look at the projection. Like he's not even like where even is he?
I forgot how much you hate players you hate. Like when a question is asked and you don't like it, you just hate it.
You have to scroll down. He's fourth from last in the bad projection.
So that's how I feel then. Yeah, I'm scrolling. Okay. There he is.
All right, that's a good description on how you feel. All right,
I wouldn't put him fourth from last, but I'd put him like sixth from last.
Okay, I believe that's a no there, guys. Let's see. Chinatown says, "Hey, I missed the SP cash discussions. You got to get in here on time. What are you doing? Is the consensus McClanahan and Cole over on DK? Cheese, would you say?
Oh my God, he's dead last. He's not. Oh no, he is from last. I didn't scroll far enough.
Cheese, McClanahan, Cole, kind of the
Cole
chalk
McClanahan is the chalk cash game pairing. Yes.
All right. Flores says DK, McClanahan, or Manoah. I don't think we said Manoah. Did we talk about him?
No. Like he's one of those guys. Like he's a really good pitcher, and a lot of days this year he'll be the guy we're playing. Today, like he missed my cut, but it's not crazy to play Manoah. But I have zero. And I prefer the chalky McClanahan, but I don't think you're like out of your mind for playing Manoah.
But the issue is money doesn't really matter, and the five guys up top, like two of them are gonna do it, right? They're at least two of them are gonna do it.
It's just that Manoah is just facing such a harder opponent than like the aces all have good matchups too, and Manoah really doesn't. So I don't like him.
All right. Let's see. Thoughts on Volpo for FanDuel GPP? Is this the kid who just got called up for the Yankees? Is that, am I making that?
That's what he means, Volpe.
Yeah, Volpe, yeah.
I'm being no for me, dog.
That's a no for me, dog.
I was going to say, but we maybe play him ahead of LeMahieu.
Yeah, okay. So it's
like for real. The one thing there, like he'll steal a base. I don't think LeMahieu will even do that. Like in a Yankee stack, I do have Volpe in a full Yankee stack over LeMahieu for real.
Okay, very good. Oh, look at that. We got the GIF. We got the GIF popping up just in time. Excellent. Fix says, is Carty's least favorite player Jeff McNeil? Carty, do you have a least favorite player?
My least favorite player is every rookie every year. That's my least favorite player.
That is a thing. That is a thing. Favorite stack in DK single entry. So Cheese, DK single entry. Are you sticking with the chalk or are you trying to get different there?
It would be Baltimore.
Baltimore. Very nice. Back to it here. Cronenworth or Mountcastle? FanDuel cash first base. Carty, Cronenworth or Mountcastle?
I'll probably take Mountcastle. But I don't know I don't know if either one is really like your cash play.
Okay. Arlo, DK cash question. Is the 2v2 for you, Cheese? Gunnar and Acuna or Cruz and Fraley?
Gunnar Acuna.
DK cash, back to you, Carty here. Larnack, Buxton, or Friedel and Soto?
Larnack, Buxton.
Bazinga with the Am I Stupid question. I love it. Get those in. I love a Am I Stupid question because Carty will straight up tell you are. Am I stupid? I'm fading McClanahan if I'm using any Braves, thinking about Brave stacks would have him. Let me reread that. Fading McClanahan if I'm using Braves, thinking that most Brave stacks will have McClanahan.
It's not stupid at all to fade McClanahan. Like he's like the best pitcher versus matchup versus salary, but his ceiling's really not that high. Like he's got the lowest likely pitch count of the non-DeGrom aces. So no, it's not crazy to fade him at all.
Okay, very good. I'm scrolling back up into the RG, the YouTube chat here, seeing if we can get some QQs out of there. Martin Reyes says, Angel stack or Braves? I don't know why the Angels total isn't higher with Mueller pitching. Thoughts, Carty? Thoughts?
Just to be clear, they're not on the main slate. But that's an all-day slate question, which is fine.
Okay, that's worth noting.
Yeah, let me see what their total is. I wasn't looking.
You haven't looked at all day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it a minute. We got some time.
Yeah. So we're talking about Angels. I mean, it's in Oakland, so I mean that's going to be a big part of it. That it's like the most extreme pitchers park in baseball, and I haven't looked at the weather.
It's
there.
cold. It's cold.
Probably pretty cold. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna mostly explain it.
Gotcha. All right, Cheese, this is a NFBC Week 1 question. Do you prefer good relief pitchers over back of the rotation starters, assuming most of those aren't all the way built up yet? What a good question.
I'm assuming he means Week 1 next week, because Week 1 this week has the 4 days and there really aren't back of the rotation starters. If you're talking this week, like the mini 4-day period, I would play the starter.
Okay.
Next week, probably the good relief pitcher over a 1-start pitcher.
Very good. Alex, actually, Old Legend says, how crazy is a Boston stack? Carty, how crazy is a Boston stack?
I don't think it's crazy at all. You know, there's other stacks I like maybe a little bit more, but there's certainly one of those. I said at the beginning, there's, like probably like 10 stacks that are like firmly in play, and they're one of them.
Mm-hmm. Martin Reyes in the chat says, unlike most pitchers who should get 80 to 85 pitches, I see McClanahan only getting 65 to 70. We're higher on both those numbers, right? Most pitchers getting closer to 85 to 100.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the Rays. So you really don't know what they're going to do. And finding McClanahan info was a little bit harder. So on March 18th, in a spring training start, he threw 67 pitches. Presumably, because that was like 2 weeks ago, he's threw one more start in there somewhere. He didn't throw a game as far as I can tell. So it's probably like a simulated thing on a backfield or like something. Mm-hmm. The assumption that I'm working under is that he threw another one, bumped up 10 or 15 pitches, wound up around in the low 80s or something. And so he should be able to go 90 or 95 here. But again, it's the first start. We don't know for sure what teams are going to do with leashes yet.
Cheese, you feel similarly there?
Yeah, there's no reason to assume 65, 70. It's conceivable, but I think you should assume 85 to 90 is the likely, realizing that it could go either side of that. And sure, especially if he's not pitching great, if he happened to end an inning at 71, sure, they might stop it there.
Okay. All right. We'll go to Brian's question here. Any Conforto? Cheese, any Conforto?
Yeah. Not a lot. I have a couple, basically Giants lefty power bats. So Conforto and Jock, I have them sprinkled in here and there because Cole's that guy that can pitch great and give up a couple homers.
H-Train says, hey, I missed it. Carty, who do you like at first in DK Cash?
Sorry, I'm distracted by bat stuff. Yeah, first base, I think you have some options. I don't think there's like one guy you have to play, but like if you can get up to Vlad, he's great. I think Yandy Diaz, if you're not playing him at third, is good. I think Joey Gallo, if you're not playing him in the outfield, is good. Jose Miranda in the same lineup is good. There's a number of first basemen you can play. There's not like one right answer.
Gotcha. Who's your favorite Orioles one-off? Carty, I'll give that one to you. Favorite Orioles one-off. It's got to be the catcher. It's the catcher. Everybody loves him.
Rushman. Yeah, it's probably him.
Yeah. Jeremy says, Cheese, I've got like 90% Hunter Green. Am I screwed on FanDuel? There's so many good pitchers.
Yeah, that's too much. I can't endorse that. I like him a lot more than Carty still, but no, I can't recommend 90% Hunter Green. No.
Yeah. All right. Jumping back into the RG Discord here real quick. RC player says, thoughts on Tovar at Stone Man? Who is Tovar? I hate early in the season. I don't know these people.
He's a Rockies middle infielder.
Okay. Any interest? We're not in Colorado.
We're not in
Carty, how do you feel about Rockies rookies on the road?
That's going to be a no from me, dog.
Yeah, that's a negative. All right.
Just one thing I want to throw out, cheap, like you're looking for a cheap shortstop. And if you want a rookie, Bryce Terang for the Brewers is better than Tovar. He's a second baseman versus shortstop. But if you're looking for a cheap middle infielder, he's second base on FanDuel. He might be short on DraftKings. Anyway, I would play Terang over Tovar.
Okay.
If you're curious.
I got a question from DePrince, and it matches up with a question here in the Discord. His question is, do y'all like DeGrom? The next comment that I saw from Chinatown is, DeGrom's getting shelled today. Am I stupid? So, Cheese, I will let you take kind of both sides of that question at once.
I mean, the reason we don't like DeGrom is pitch count. He's the only pitcher that we actually do have a pitch count on, and it's 75 to 80. Mm-hmm. So compared to Cole and Burns and Scherzer and Nola, who could go 100, they probably, maybe they do, maybe they don't. We know DeGrom is not going that long. So that's why he's kind of the left out guy. And also not getting shelled. Obviously, he's Jacob DeGrom.
Yes. Okay. That's good. Fanduel GPP. Mike says, should we just lock in Mad Max and walk away with cash? I kind of like the way that sounds. Is that a plan, Carty? Lock in Mad Max, walk away with the cash?
I like him in GPPs. He's probably one of my favorite GPP pitchers on the slate. Lock him in and guarantee cash is probably a bit extreme.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Fanduel GPP. Oh, no, sorry. Is Ozuna a big pinch hit risk once Corbin gets pulled? Cheese?
I don't think so. No.
A couple questions here with some big names that I don't think we brought up. There was Pete, Polar Bear Pete, or his other nickname, which I don't think I can say. Pete Alonso and Judge. We didn't. Nobody said either, right?
So I mentioned them both in the musings in this exact category of there's no reason to like them today at their salaries versus good ground ball pitchers. But if you play a bunch of lineups, you should have Alonso and Judge every single day, all year, no matter what, period. Yeah. And I do like them both today for that reason, but neither of them are going to pop because of their salaries and tougher matchups.
But as far as dudes who can hit multiple home runs on any given night, yeah. Those are two of the top 5 in baseball, right?
Yes. Yeah, or for just home runs are probably 2 of the top 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good question. I'm glad we kind of talked that out. What else do we have here? DK Cash, I can only choose one, Acuna or Buxton. Carty, you mentioned you had the lean towards Buxton, I believe. Yep. Cheese, do you have a separate lean or you feel the same way?
I would slightly lean Acuna, but essentially no. Those are so clearly the top 2 guys. I don't think you're going wrong either way.
Okay, very good. Less than a minute to lock our very first lock of the year, with 9.5 more months of it every single day following this. I mentioned, hey, the weather is mostly quiet. I will be getting out an update on that San Diego game as we get closer. But Cheese, as you said.
Yeah, honestly, please don't. There's literally nothing to do.
I'm going to do it anyway. So,
okay.
But just don't look. Just look away as I post it. No, I expect everything to be fine in San Diego. A chance of a late start, I think, would be, if anything. A couple more questions coming in here. DKGPP, Cheese, Springer, Snell, or Santander and McClanahan?
I like the Santander McClanahan side.
Very good. Seeing if there's anything that I missed here in the old Discord. Everything looks good. TJ says we're getting different on day 1. His tournament pitchers are Fried and Nola. Let me tell you why that's wrong. There we go. Play ball. There we go. Fried and Nola. Cheese, you got any problems with that?
Yeah. Nola's my SP1. I don't have. I might have one Fried somewhere. I like Nola a lot. Fried, I have no problem with it.
Okay. Then I will not tell you why you're wrong, because if she says you're not wrong, then you ain't wrong. That's how it works around here. A lot of love in the YouTube chat. Frederick says, hey, thanks, guys. Good luck. Good luck to you. Not just today, but every damn day for the rest of our natural lives.
Think about how much it's going to rain for the next 6 months.
No.
And just wish us all a happy. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. You know what? I already was looking ahead, and I think tomorrow could be a complete shit show. I think tomorrow could be one of those where all of the games are no longer exist. But there's not even that many games, right? Tomorrow.
Yeah. I don't like the way they do this.
So
I like
weird.
the Thursday, everyone playing, but then they just, the last couple of years, they've basically not had baseball on the first Friday, which is just weird. I think there's 5 games.
Yeah, it's baseball. You can play back-to-backs. It's okay. Just this is the start of the season. You don't need load management in day 2 of the baseball season here. Let's see. Oh, I was going to end the show, but I got a Roth stretch. I got to stretch as we kind of change things here. So let's see if there's any more QQs coming up. Is Boba Fett going nuts today? Fanduel GBP, your boy Boba Fett. Jeez.
I mean, he didn't ask, is he going nuts? He said he is going nuts, and then asked for our thoughts. I mean, I've said I like the Blue Jays. That's my favorite kind of off the board stack, and he's certainly in them. I like him.
All right. Let's see if we got anything else coming in. Late to the slate was Milwaukee in consideration for stacks. Did either of you mention Milwaukee DKGPPs?
No, they're in the MME mix for sure. It's not fantastic. Like the team's not thrilling this year. I don't love what they did and or didn't do. Against Stroman and not great hitting weather. It's just, it's fine. I have one or two.
Okay, Cheese, who's winning it all this year?
We'll go with Atlanta.
Atlanta. Carty, who's winning it all this year?
Atlanta's the favorite.
Okay, well, that wasn't very exciting. I was hoping we could, maybe have a little
You
disagreement.
can bet the Angels plus 5,000 if you want. I like
the
that.
Angels are terrible. I don't know why.
They're not terrible.
How are they suddenly good? They have two good players. How does that make them suddenly good?
They've had two good players for years. Now they have more than two good players.
Okay. I want the Angels to be good. So yeah, I want those games to matter. I want Shohei and Trout to matter. So the issue is Trout's going to get hurt and Shohei's going to be the only good player left.
Like if Trout and Rendon are in the lineup all year, which is a 0% chance, I like it. But even without them, like it's still, that division is actually sneaky good all around, except for Oakland. Like that's a very interesting division. That's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Taylor Ward's like one of the better hitters in baseball at this point. He's like a top 30 or 40 guy.
And it was sneaky good. Renfroe and Drury.
Yeah, they added
that's
Renfroe
sneaky
and Drury.
good ads. And even Urshela is fine.
Yep, they added Tyler Anderson, Pablo Sandoval, and Detmers look good. Like they have Ohtani pitching. Like they're actually a pretty good team.
And let's not overlook the fact that their catcher is named Logan O'Hoppe.
Yeah,
who doesn't want that guy in the World Series?
I mean, clearly
I believe in him. Yeah, I believe in him. Hey, quick question before I bounce because I don't follow anything. Do the Tampa Bay Rays have a shot here? Are we legitimate, or are we kind of like we always are, which is fringe postseason, but don't really have the upside?
I mean, you're fringe postseason only because you play in a strong division. Like you're an easy favorite for a wild card.
All right.
Like,
and you have a shot to win the division too.
Always.
Yeah. All right. I'll take it. I'll take that. Gives me something to root for here. With that, we are going to bounce on out of here. Excellent work as always, gentlemen. So for Cheese, for Carty, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow and then every day thereafter for nearly eternity. You have been crunched.